regular meeting to order. Brandy, you want to do the roll call?
Jake Betts.
Here.
Andy Craig.
Here.
Max Weiss.
Here.
Ken Jones.
Here.
Mike Babbitt.
Here.
All right. Now we got an agenda here. Got a motion to,
Move to approve the agenda. Second.
any opposed? Agenda is approved. And now we got the minutes.
Move to approve February 10th, 21 meeting minutes.
A second.
Second.
All right, a second. Any discussion on the meeting minutes?
They look like meeting minutes.
I have a, I do, on the commission comments, I think, I know I did say it's important we take care of the U.S. Forest Service, but they will have 3 larger boats and it will be a challenge to find them spaces. But I certainly don't think that, and if I said that, that's not what I meant to say, because they're 3 smaller boats and it won't be a challenge to find them places that I think we can all find lots of places for them. So anyways, that's the only comment I have.
You want to delete the first line?
Well, if that's what, did you copy, I mean, you copied that, so, yeah, you can't.
Or change will to won't.
Just the,
I mean, that's what's in the actual
They will
recorded
freeze-
minutes.
really, 3 smaller boats and it will not be a challenge to find them spaces. Anyways, I don't think we can, I think we can take care of them without too much problem, so. Any other comments on the minutes? Any opposed to approving the minutes as amended? Hearing none. Communications by visitors, audience comments. Dave, we have a visitor.
On the bottom. Want to borrow my glasses?
Need longer arms.
Hello. I made comment on the North Harbor parking discussion, so I hope it's part of the South Harbor renovation plan. It's not its own thing, because the South Harbor definitely needs to get fixed first. I do agree that the parking over on the North Harbor sucks. It's super tight in the summer. And that definitely needs to be addressed, but we definitely have to fix the South Harbor before it sinks, comes apart. So that's my only comment. I hope it's all part of the same thing and not separate, because that's $5 million that could be spent on the South Harbor instead of.
Do we want to address that right now?
What's that? What part?
Well, I do think it is separate. This is the North Harbor is a long-term thing that we're going to go for money after we fix the South Harbor, but the South Harbor money is kind of in the hopper.
Okay.
And different bits, but this North Harbor is a separate project that we're going to try to get tuned up and ready in case there's money.
Yeah, like I
For
said,
whatever money's next.
I agree with the idea. That's a good idea. You know, it's really tight in the summer getting down there by the camp.
Drive down there right now, and you're one-lane road, because the snowbanks are off the bridge,
And-
and they're out in the middle of the road.
I guess the reason why it came up on our agenda is because the city manager asked for us to take this up in regards to an overall plan on the North Harbor side, due to ongoing discussions of, land use and leases in that space. With the upcoming, science center moving within the next few years and stuff like that. She wanted to see a plan from us that has more detail than what our master plan provides. Like basically in our master plan, we just say, we want to expand into that area. She wants us to discuss and figure out exactly how we want to use that space so she can have something to go off of.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Okay, thanks. Lindsay, any comments? No one on the phone? Okay, thanks. Harbor Masters report.
Just ignore the fourth one down.
That's what I was going to. I said, are we behind here?
We're going back to 2018 because it was a better year.
I said, dude, maybe you printed off the one wrong year.
Yep. Nope, I just didn't change the date and I was using an old one so I could remind someone to buy sweatshirts that didn't stop in like he said he was gonna.
3 electrical shorts on G-Flow.
Yeah, I should have printed you a picture. It was bad, really bad. I mean, it was the main line that goes down G-Float, had 2 splices on top of it, and you could see the copper in the wire, and there was smoke coming out of it and crackling, and
Surprised you didn't call for a diver. Isn't that what you usually do when there's smoke coming out of the water?
get him up a little. I didn't figure you wanted to go in the water with him on. Yeah, and then we found 2 others while he was down there. I think due to the snow, we had a little extra snow, so we tried to shovel a little bit more off. But yeah, it was actually a good thing that we found them because they were bad. We had one main line, one of the big ones like that the covering just peeled off and was corroded out. I mean, it wasn't even a splice or anything. It just,
Baked off, yeah.
yeah,
Old. It's getting old.
yeah, it was bad. So, yeah, we were able to get Paul down there and pulled him off a job and get them fixed.
Zinc should last a little longer.
Yeah, so pile hoops, got some of them on, and end brackets on. Snow removal, of course. Let's see. Refurbish some triangles. Looking for a new used Genie lift. Haven't had any luck finding anything in a decent range. So,
Is that a scissor?
yeah, it's our blue Z-Bend Genie lift. Yeah, so we were looking at, the one we have is a 2000 or 2001. Talked to a guy that does the repairs in Anchorage and inspections on them, and I was gonna have him come down and inspect it. And told him what year it was, and he was like, well, he goes, I'll come down and do whatever you want, but I suggest you don't waste your money and just buy something 2011 and up. Just the technology's gone and no one knows how to work on them. But we have one cylinder that's at 60 PSI and the rest are around 200, along with some coolant in the oil or oil in the coolant, can't remember exactly. So, but the cheapest one we could find was around 40,000, and then plus we got to get it here from Washington. So right now I have, the city shop's going to look in to see what it costs for a new engine or a new head for that one we have. It's not that expensive, fix it, and then we'll sell it to buy the new one. So, but no matter what we do, we're not going to get anything here quick. So we're still looking around. There was none in Anchorage. I talked to United Rentals, whatever, and Airport Rentals. There's nothing.
Is that mostly like for working on the haul out machine?
Yeah. For us, that and streetlights, and then city shop uses it, Podarkey uses it, a little, I mean, everyone kind of in the city uses it, so,
And we charge them for that, right?
no.
So how much are they contributing?
Well, if you look at the street shop that puts in labor for free to do all the work on our stuff,
Okay.
you know. I
At
mean,
least one
they,
dumpster tip or something we should get.
yeah, so, yeah, Alpine Diesel is working on the ocean dock lads, went down, and took a look at them. Looking good, all in stainless, so as long as no one ties off to them and pulls them off, they should last a long time. So we'll replace all of them along the face of the ocean dock. Let's see,
And are we going down just like two,
yeah, to the old,
like we,
well, the old but in good shape ladder.
where?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything that's in that tide water or below the tide line.
Yeah, the part that was continually immersed was doing fine
Yeah,
and is more of a pain to change, so
yeah,
not many people use them.
right, so. Yeah, so everything that's below that splash zone, Andy went and looked at them, and they're in pretty good shape below that, but of course, as you know, everything above is not good at all, so. And then, conference call with the EDA. The EDA is talking about possibly giving us a bunch of money. We don't know, I don't want to get everyone's hopes up, but, you know, they're talking 7, 8 mil, so,
Sweet.
but, you know. Don't count your chickens before they hatch, but sounds good, talking to the lady there. Shirley Kelly is great to talk to, and she seems like she's in charge, so hopefully it'll go well. And then, of course, we're still working on all the other grants, Tier 1, the build, resubmitted the CAPSIS for the state. I got that done just in time. And then, I didn't put it on here, the PIDP grant, still working on that. Sent out requests for support letters to all businesses. I sent out, I think, 40 today and yesterday, so. And let's see. And we have an issue with our restroom in the shipyard. That
What's
just
up?
came up recently. We're not sure if the drain line is frozen or not.
Yeah.
The sewer line?
Yep.
You.
Hasn't really been that cold.
No, we're looking into it. Facility contractor's doing a little bit on it, and then we'll try to snake it again tomorrow.
How deep did they put it? Not deep enough.
Well, if it's frozen, you're probably right on that, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Great.
no, it's not great.
You know, cold, 18, 19, 20.
Yep.
A long time.
Yeah, that's what happens when you take the low bid.
Really, you have to get as deep.
Yeah, I would think that well-drained gravel of that fill wouldn't,
Yeah, so, but, I mean, our water line down there freezes too, so, but you would think a sewer line being big enough, it wouldn't,
Especially if it's empty.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually empty unless you got a trickle going down it.
so.
Yeah.
What kind of pipe is it?
I honestly don't know. I wasn't there when they put it in, if it was, they put it into steel or they put it into PVC, black or anything.
Miners did it at a low spot, plugged up right, low spot. They had to
So.
get the whole thing front here.
Yep, so,
Cool.
Damn it. Okay,
So I take it it's not open.
not today.
Got locked.
We found out because it was open and it was flooded in there.
Oh.
With nothing good.
And isn't it, you have to have the key from you guys,
Kinda,
so is it just unlocked?
so.
they're working on a punch pad, right? Or
A mag lock that uses the key fobs.
right now, it's
Yeah,
just open.
Okay.
we've been leaving one for the people down there to use, so.
New business. North Harbor needs discussion.
I was looking at this picture we have here. But the other drawing I seen, I forgot where I seen it at, had this stuff drawn all the way to the end down here. All the way past. Have these, you know, filled up, this is all parking in here too. You know,
Yeah, I don't know.
all the way through, like, this went all the way through.
I don't know who did that one.
I don't know either. Oh, sorry.
Jake's on the line, so I don't know if there is anyone else, but
PNN and B,
So Max is just making an observation, if we continued that line of that sheet pile all the way down to the breakwater, kind of right underneath the Science Center.
Oh, here it is. It's on-
approach dock.
it's on this last page here, well, the yellow goes all the way down to the Science Center. Yellow,
That's page 7.
yes, page 7.
So, yeah, on page 7 is using updated photo. So that would have the,
Yeah. Sheet pile or
basically
boardwalks.
take out most of the approaches too.
Well, yeah, if you did it, you'd want to do that anyways and get rid
Might
of
as
this.
well.
It would only make sense, otherwise you'd spend all that money to do that, and you'd just have to turn around and
Terminate
rebuild that
and
dock
start
again.
and- Yeah.
And then 20 years later, you'd rebuild it again, but if it was dirt, it would never need attention again. The one thing, I'm looking at page number 4, and it seems like, you know, this, it's kind of hard to tell because this is the old harbor here, but there's still really quite a bit of wasted space there because no one, you know, since this harbor's been installed, I haven't seen a single boat, you know, between those two approaches, you know, that's totally
Yeah,
unused space.
they're not supposed to go there.
I was just down there and measured it, and from where the front of the cars park right now existing to where it seemed like would be the place where you'd want to end and do the sheet piles, 145 feet there.
Yep.
And the amount of space that that the cars take to park like we have set up right now is about 20 feet. So if we had another row of parking there front to front with the cars 20 feet, then an 18-foot or whatever roadway between the two, then you could have another 20 feet of parking. And what would that leave you? 80 foot, you know, you could have a green belt with a sidewalk or something like right on the very front of it, and it would still leave you 60 feet, you know, to build a building there to have storefront and stuff like that also. Was
Well, my idea was that, we've looked at it before, just like you're talking about with measurements and all that, is that you pull all the docks, that head dock, all the way up to the sheet pile. You come out 60, 70 feet, which is plenty to get you in angle parking. You'd well over double your spaces over there.
You're talking about.
Yeah, and
Like
like
Whittier
Whittier
did.
has, bring your head dock right to the sheet pile. So you can do work from over there. I mean, whether you had a crane there or something like that, or it's all parking, or it's green belt or whatever, but a crane would reach over that, and you could pull a net or something if you had to, you know, to your pickup. But yeah, with a breakwater, you have all that tow and
well,
float.
that was exactly what I was meaning
Yeah,
when I was saying
right.
that was with the sheet pile. And
Yep.
then the way that we have the approaches set up right now, you know, there's kind of the dock that's off to the side of the main float there. And I was trying to figure out, you know, we're always talking about needing more space to do gear work and stuff like that. So I thought that we could maybe just get another little section of dock that would fit in there, you know, and it would triple the width of it. You know, people could pull their nets and then that could be right up against the sheet pile right there or something like that.
Yep.
Save a piece of G-Flow.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, sorry.
Question for staff. So I guess along the lines of what Mike was saying, how hard would it be to, I guess, pull that float structure in? I mean, you're saying you wanted to put the main float, is that even possible? Or is it, like,
Why
how-
would,
You could, if you wanted to pull it into the bulkhead or whatever you put there,
yeah,
you'd have to get a filler piece for that finger float. You know,
For
or the
each-
main
you-
float going out.
For each of the
You-
long floats.
you would disconnect that main float, move it, so you'd have to move
You'd move the head dock in by disconnecting it from the main floats going
and
out.
pull in like 20 pilings,
what,
whatever, 10 pilings.
Yeah, you may have to.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
then-
yeah, I'm not saying, yep.
And then you would get a 20 or 30 foot piece.
Yeah, whatever you could go in on if you wanted to
Okay,
do
I
that. I
see.
mean, that's an option.
why,
Leave the other piles
just trying to
in
understand.
the same place.
why would you, you're talking about moving this float?
That's what he was saying.
Why, I'm just trying to understand, why wouldn't you just put the flat pile out to the dock? Why would you need to move?
Because you gain nothing in the moored spaces.
Kind of split it. You gain.
You gain parking for cars, but you gain nothing for the harbor. So if you pull that in 40 to 60 feet,
can get
you can put 2 more
Oh, okay.
floats on each side of each main dock.
get
You
it.
might gain 8, 10 spaces.
So you could have another section built by whoever built that dock. They could make it match.
Yep.
And you would get another couple floats on each
Yeah,
finger.
yeah, I mean, you would at least get a finger float on each side of the main, if not 2. I mean, if you come in 40 feet, you know, you could possibly get 2, come in 60 feet, 2, 3.
Well, and the way that it's set up currently, we kind of have a waste stall in the beginning. You know, it just didn't, it should have been just a little bit wider, and then it could have been in a sign stall, or so that could kind of address that, and we could use, you know, that space
Yeah.
even, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a thought. I mean, you know, you could do that. Or you could pull the whole system in and hope all the pilings line up when you get it in and then add to the end. I would think pulling the main dock, I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas. So I
The
don't,
main dock, and you can just add whatever link.
I think doing any of that sounds complicated.
well, I'm not saying it's going to be.
What about putting another transient
but
dock at the
also-
bottom of it?
What do you mean?
You know, like we're talking about on this side on the P and D alternative 4C or whatever it was, where we just sheet pile it and then add another float at the bottom with another ramp that is then just a transient float. You know, people will come in around by the Reluctant, tie up to it.
On the inside?
Just, well, like, yeah, so like utilizing that space between our existing main float and where the sheet pile would end, if we made that space big enough, you could put another float at the bottom of the sheet pile, like in that photo that Andy has. And then people could, that could be a transient dock instead of having,
Yeah, I mean, I guess,
so we'd still gain parking, but we'd also gain moorage.
it's possible, but you wouldn't be able to get under the ramps.
I was gonna say, so that would give you the,
It'd give you one.
around the side by the,
Oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah,
we could cut the dock,
right.
maybe.
But you got all your water lines run under there and your main wires that run, that's the issue about, especially if you're
Right.
talking a bow picker going under with antennas in a cabin and all that.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't work.
Not saying it's impossible, but
The one thing I was considering about this, well, I've been thinking about lately is that also I was trying to factor in, you know, like we've been talking about the harbor itself, and you know, we have 10 or 12 years more of the life expectancy left in that harbor, and this is such a kind of, you know, kind of a long-term plan that we're talking about, and so I was thinking of it like kind of maybe hopefully, you know, coinciding, you know, the two projects kind of, you know, possibly redesigning the floats a little bit to get some more capacity, because the last time that this was all done, it was on a downswing of the commercial fishing, and we just didn't need that many. You know, it was, I can remember some of the conversations, and there just wasn't a need for the high number of stalls that we have today. So that could kind of help, I think, to if we were considering doing, you know, both of those projects at a similar time.
Any feedback from Leif on the landing craft accessibility, or along that little pocket beach in front of Ocean Beauty? Remember, we were going to look at the land use boundary to see if there was room there to have a little access road or something?
yeah, I do remember that. I don't remember if he sent me some. I may have forgot all about it, but I'll put down a reminder though, so.
It looks close, but like you said, if there's some sort of triangle over there added to the end of that lot, then it's going to make it probably not workable. But that could be, if it doesn't work, that, again, could be something that could be worked into that space that the Science Center is exiting. Somewhere in that shallow zone is have a spot where landing crafts could unload and kind of face into that intersection. It's not too busy of an intersection. And,
Did you say not too busy?
well, it's not as busy as the launch ramp down over here in the south, you know, by the 3-stage dock.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I mean, it would be one other option for,
Yeah, I think if we did something like that, if we're gonna talk about landing craft ramps, you'd have to fill over there though.
I agree. I think it would be, you would fill out, but not so far that there wouldn't be room to lay against those pilings and put your ramp down. And then the rest of the fill might be used for something else, but it looks like there's enough room for it anyways. If it's you might have to fill a little bit and dredge a little bit to make it happen.
Is there enough room from that beach over to the other dock where a guy can swing straight into there with his boat? Or is he gonna, 80, 100 footer gonna be getting that dock?
Well, if if the Science Center building goes away,
Well, I thought you meant on the other side, like, St. Elias.
oh,
You gotta swim inside that T-dog.
there's room in there. You can get, yeah, landing, a
There's plenty
landing
of room
craft
over
can
there.
get in there.
Yeah.
Get in there, no problem. But there's nothing to lean against. There's no
Oh, no.
piling, but there's room. And you're out of the current, which is one of their complaints about their other spot for them out in front in Northville. And they break our dock. But I don't see the sidewalk on here. I like that idea. I assumed that it would go along that green belt in front of the Reluctant and up through that, under that overpass.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sorry.
Vice Chairman. So I guess the way I understood what Helen wanted us to do is to discuss the long-term plan, but also address the potential use for the space that's going to be vacated by the Science Center. That seemed like a big thing that she wanted to know. And then also, I guess, our priorities for the space that is currently leased to the Forest Service. And so I would like to see us formalize in our plan that it's our intention to put a floating fuel dock into that space.
Into the space
Currently,
between the Forest Service, the space that
somewhere in this
Forest
corner,
Service
wherever,
Science Center.
I mean, wherever council decides, I guess they want to put it, I would like to see it put personally, and this is obviously for the entire body to decide, but I would personally like to see it put exactly in the footprint of the Forest Service dock. Maybe have it be a little bit longer, so they can achieve 3 or 4 boats on each side, 3 or 4 bow picker sized vessels on each side. I would prefer to see us not rip out the old grid and that approach that we just spent a couple $100,000 resurfacing. So I see the existing Science Center dock as a potential wharfage space for the fleet to utilize in the future once refurbished. And I would hate to see us rip it out. So I think that the ideal location, if we are to make a floating fuel dock a priority, which has kind of been the talk for a long time, at least since I've been on here, I think that the ideal location would be to utilize the space where the U.S. Forest Service is. And so I'd like to see that incorporated into whatever plan we come up with. I do agree that we need more parking. We need to address the parking issue. I'm not what's in front of us with the 2013 conceptual plan. I don't really like this idea. I think it's too cost prohibitive for what we're gaining. I think that what Harbor Commissioner Babick was saying is, get rid of these wear points that are the wooden approaches. That obviously is a no-brainer. And I like that. Have the approaches sit on the dirt. The walkways would sit on the dirt to where we would eliminate a future fail point. That makes total sense to me. I do like the idea of having little shop spaces and greenbelt and everything else that people in the community have said that they want. I love the idea about getting the walkway that connects under the right-of-way, under the Sky Bridge at the Reluctant. So that way it would alleviate industry worker foot traffic away from the corner that intersects with Railroad Avenue and Breakwater Avenue. I think that's definitely needs to be a priority in our North Harbor plan. I guess that's my opinion on how we should utilize this future space. Is we should identify, and send a list to Helen and maybe send it to P&D and they can make us up a drawing so we can get something kind of rubber stamped to give to her that incorporates what all we've talked about with a fuel dock, with renovating the Science Center dock, establishing a greenbelt walkway and additional parking using sheet pile, and then a walkway that connects to the right-of-way under the Sky Bridge. So I don't know if we need to like make a list and then we approve it and then we send it to her. I think she wanted kind of something like official, this is what the Harbor Commission wants, so she could go after grants with it. So,
My only thing is that we're the Harbor Commission. We're not the Sidewalk Commission. I mean, we need to do things that are going to benefit the harbor. We're going to invest $20, $30 million into a sidewalk, and that we're going to get what out of? We're talking harbor money here. I mean, I agree where you're talking the approaches. If we were to do this sheet pile, yeah, all the way across. You don't stop and then rip wrap it and stuff like that. That benefits us maintenance and everything. But I mean, you know, you're talking redoing the Science Center deck. Well, where's that money coming from? I'm not saying they're bad ideas. I'm just saying that you want to raise your hand and be like, don't worry, we'll pay for it. And then trying to find that money. And like Mike said, and we all know that North Harbor docks are going to have to be fixed in 12, 15, 20 years. And who's going to give us the money for that? You know, I mean, we don't want to throw all our money away to do things that aren't truly benefiting the fleet and, you know, the 10% of the wreck boaters that use the harbor. So I'm just kind of, I don't want us to get too far of, we're going to do this, and then now we're on the hook for it. So.
okay. Well, as far as the Science Center dock, you know, I see that as benefiting the fleet directly. That gives us more wharfage space. That could be
You're talking about removing the
tear down the building.
flat of the building, or just tear down the building?
Tear down the building and then replace the deck boards and inspect the pilings and replace as needed. And, you know, make that a
Or
usable.
look at it. I think that we're gonna find that it's
And we might find that it's not,
better to just
Because the
cut it off,
the
but
base of that area is an old dock. It used to go
I
straight.
got a comment here when you guys go to
I'm just getting tired of us, you know, if you look at pictures of Cordova from the 70s and the amount of wharfage space that we had for people to tie up to and utilize as far as loading and unloading docks, it's just, we're losing every year. And I would like to see us evaluate rebuilding that float after the Science Center vacates it, to see if there is potential to use that as another loading dock and put a crane on it, and then it gets, you know, it just gives the fleet another option for loading and unloading nets or engines or fish or crab or pots or whatever.
But I was trying to say, though, that dock that the Science Center's on and that facing dock is all old. The new part is where it ties into that.
Yep.
But I'm not sure that dock the Science Center's on and that facing dock, one of it, is, I haven't checked, anybody looked at the piling, it's been there since that's built that original harbor. That's part of the dock that came down the hill, straight out and across.
Yeah. So that's why it needs to be assessed. But I don't want to see us go in a route where we tear it out and dredge and then lease it to Shoreside. You know, if we're going to lease it to Shoreside, I'd rather have them do that. But I see the ideal solution to, you know, keep the fleet's best interests in mind would be to put a floating fuel dock in the existing Forest Service location and keep that dock and evaluate renovating it for use by the fleet, which is how it used to be.
You mean dredge out in front of it, 'cause that's,
Yeah, you might,
at a zero tide, that's dry.
yeah, but at a 15-foot tide, it's not. So, I mean, there's,
Can you guys hear me on the phone there?
Gotcha, Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, if we're going to let sheet pile all the way down through there, it doesn't make any sense to keep any of those docks. Sheet pile is your new dock space. You can put a floating dock in front of it. You don't want to be tending the pile for the next 50 years. You don't have to. And just rip all of them out.
You're talking about the approaches?
Correct.
Yes.
buildings and all.
Yep, right, yep. We all concur here that stopping and starting is inefficient, and we should have that.
Yeah, but I mean, also, let's be realistic. We start talking about sheet piling all the way from the Salty Steer lot all the way to the ADF and G. We're talking $10 million with a sheet pile. And, you know, Science Center's moving in 3 years. And there's potential to utilize that space that can benefit the fleet, even if it's in the short term. I don't disagree. The more wood we can get out of there and replace with dirt, the better. But you know, we just spent $100,000 replacing that approach, and or however much it was, $400,000 between the two of them. And we have a lease that's going in front of council in like a few weeks on the Forest Service dock, and we have an interested party that wants to put in a floating fuel dock somewhere. And so I would like to see, you know, yeah, it'd be great to get sheet pile on the whole thing, but realistically, we've still got $30 million of the work to do on the other side of the harbor, and I would like to see a plan on the north side that's, you know, some that can be started working towards, because we're not going to be, I guess, trying to spend a bunch of money on it. You know, we can utilize that space with the grid and the Science Center dock a lot sooner if we just do what we did with the loading dock. I mean, they just renovated that whole dock for $250,000, and it's awesome.
Oh, okay. On this, I got a question I didn't know. Now, if Science Center moves out, that building's just gonna sit there then, right?
That's up to council.
That's what I mean. The city's in control of that. We're not, but we have to pay for to fix it.
That's my kind of question that I have, yeah.
Somebody goes in there and that flooring collapses or something happens there, who's gonna be liable for that?
You,
Well, the city will, yeah, insurance, but
in end, all of us.
that's
Right.
probably the one that's gonna have to go in there and fix the thing.
Yeah, and it might be where we need to put in a letter of, you know, of a recommendation or a request to council that upon vacating of that building, that control of that building comes to the harbor. And
Why?
so we can utilize it for the harbor. You just said you want to get more stuff going in the harbor for our harbor users.
I don't want the building.
Could be the new harbor master office, Tony.
I don't want to be out there. I've seen under that dock.
Yeah.
They say in an earthquake, that thing just rocks around for a while, they can feel it out there.
That's just when the liability, you know, falls down.
So my, I guess I have a comment. I'm trying to think of, you know, we don't right now charge for parking. I mean, this is a little bit, what are we doing over here that's going to make more income?
The storefronts.
Possibly the storefronts?
City will lease that. Art won't come to the harbor.
Yeah, that stuff.
But what storefronts? I mean, I'm not trying to be, I mean,
If we created storefront along the front there,
If we're able to lease some of the little view lots around the
it seemed, it would be some value.
edge of the sheep pile, if we divvied it up like that.
okay,
Would we get to keep, would the harbor keep the money, or where
I
would?
doubt it.
No.
So that
But I
would,
mean, I'm not trying to be negative about it, but I mean, how many businesses are looking to build another business that they already have and put it in the North Harbor where there's
well, this is
going on in the winter?
such a long-term thing that, I bet somebody will want it.
Man, I'm good with, you
It's
know,
up to you
like
guys, you're the commission, so I'm just saying.
food truck stalls or whatever, but I don't see a brick and mortar business being very, I don't know. It's
They're
just
all
a
going out
different
of
world.
business in Whittier. I mean,
So my comment about moorage was that we haven't really addressed anywhere else tying up big boats. And if you look at the this page 4 in our original Old Harbor layout, we had this major finger coming out into the harbor. I forget which number that is.
E,
D?
Echo.
E Echo, okay. And then in our new layout, it's gone.
Yep.
And that seems like a good way to tie up, maybe we could somehow tie into that finger that's there or something like that and use up some of that space out in front. I don't know why we got rid of that, but there's definitely still a turning basin to use that dock.
I think it sunk.
Did it?
I think it was real bad, man.
We probably got, not why we got rid of the dock, but why we got rid of having a dock shaped like
That long
that.
dock that went way out, that's the first.
And I see a bunch of big boats on it.
The way I remember it, I think it came down to just the cost, and then the need for space in the harbor was so much less at the time that it was drawn up.
But that is there's a gap there that we could stick a
That was probably a state decision then,
float out in.
because they owned it then.
They owned it then, yeah.
Yeah. But that would gain us tie-up space, which,
So are you thinking, right where the science center is, put a big finger out there? Are you talking connected to the existing float structure? And
no, I see it more like right there where,
I would agree, we need a spot where,
the Forest Service, E-float, I guess, Echo.
E was the one that's no longer there. D float would be, I think you're thinking of connecting it to D float.
Okay, I'm putting E back in is what I want to do. And pretty much the same place it was
okay.
is what I'm proposing, or looking at how we do that.
That's the whole deal, is that we don't.
Yeah, I'd totally support that. I think that there is a definite need
A, B, C.
in the community for a float like that. I do think that,
Yeah, there's still some room.
which angle do that side, like where Burton and the Sound Pacer Park,
They're on that angle they show on here.
they're on that angle still? Okay. So basically we'd be,
But that's a good angle for the wind.
yeah, ish.
Not too bad.
Lose that.
Yeah, we definitely have a need for larger boat moorage. If we're gonna put a dock in there, I would suggest that it's one of those big cement,
duty.
double piling on each side
Heavy duty, yeah.
style like you see out in Dutch Harbor. But yeah, we need a space for, the Piswak landing craft. We need a space for the bigger boats. There's a couple of them that have expressed interest. Tony was talking about them one time.
It's pretty deep in there.
Yeah,
Probably.
not up right next to the approach, but up further out, it's deep. Yeah, that should definitely be in our North Harbor plan, I would think. I could support that.
It would really help in May and June, like when the Majestic is tied up, like on the transient float. You two boats can't even pass each other in that section of the harbor at that point in time. It seems like it's kind of like an accident. I've seen a few close calls there and stuff.
Get a
That would
big
be
Fat bow picker taking
good to
fuel
get some of those
alongside.
big wide boats out of that section anyway.
I think it's really narrow there.
But that is I don't know if we could almost do two fingers out. Might get kind of goofy,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
trying to slide by each other and stuff, but that one could,
You're talking big boats, they don't maneuver very well.
Yeah, and I guess if we're gonna draw up a plan for Helen like she wanted, I could totally get on board with ripping out the Science Center dock if and only when, or only if and when we get the 10 million to do all the sheet pile. And then we could leave that space, dredge it out, and leave that space where guys could go and tie up to the bulkhead to do their work. I could get on board with that, but,
You could have cranes along.
and could have cranes along the top, anchored into cement that's anchored into the dirt with a nice, foundation. That I could see as a great utilization of the space for the fleet's benefit. I just, in the short term, want to see that space get utilized somehow. And I don't really want to lose the old grid quite yet, but at the same time, it doesn't get used a whole heck of a lot.
I mean, I don't like the idea. I mean, I wouldn't go and tear out the old grid in the dock leading to it right away.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, I mean, we spent a bunch of money on it, but I mean, you know, it's a kind of a viewing area, or if you look at the very end of it and you fix just the very end and not over where the Science Center building is, okay, then you could do something with that.
yeah, no, that'd be fine too.
Right,
yeah.
a good look at what is there and
Yeah.
where it'll be in 5 years or.
I just wouldn't wanna get-
It'll be as important.
I just wouldn't want to get too carried away of, you know, do you start replacing underneath where the Science Center is now, and you're going to end up in a lot of money if it needs it, because of its pilings and everything else.
Yeah, and I don't think we need that whole space.
Right.
I'm just saying like that dock frontage,
Right, I agree.
you know?
And it sort of blocks with the way that breakwater comes out there, it blocks access to that little basin behind it.
Right.
So if we take that off, that frees us up to do something in there. Again, with dredging, that could be a floating fuel dock space, possible. For the pipes to run if they were buried under the parking lot. But it's possible somebody might want to take on developing that whole little corner. A lot of space.
If you just pick up the whole dock and turn it a few degrees, it would open.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
It's easy to do in Photoshop.
Yeah. Yeah. Save a lot of money doing it in Photoshop.
How wide is that approach? Do you know off the top of your head? Is that a 16 wide?
I would say it's probably close to that, yeah. I wouldn't say it's less.
I think it's 18. You can pass 2 cars very tightly on it.
And if we're not maintaining that grid, within 5 years, it might not be very usable.
That's what we thought 10 years ago.
I think we've been saying that for 10 years, yeah.
I know the bigger boats won't want to use it, they break through it.
boat loves
They
that.
banned anything over 40 feet on it.
Unless you sneak on in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Oh, I just got stuck here. I was going to my slip.
Shoot, I thought this was my stall.
Just remember, there's a sign that says it, so it's your fault.
Any other additional comments to the Northville? Are we gonna, how are we gonna capture these?
I don't know.
We're gonna have our notes and then we're gonna come up with a drawing at some point that we pass around. I don't know what the timing is on this.
Do we need to have another one of
Sounded like
those
you wanted to
workshops
soon.
with Doug Kenley from P&D like we did for the South Harbor?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they're willing to talk to us. They've done a lot of work for us for nothing.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get them a big project here soon. The one thing,
The timeframe is whatever you want it to be.
well, I wasn't sure what, I mean, it seemed like Helen wanted some sort of a concurrence anyway from us of what we want for that space. So that way, as council moves forward, they have something from us to kind of look to say, well, this is what the Harbor Commission says they want to use the space for. And so, you know, I would like to see us get that to them before they vote to dispose of a lot that's currently coming up to them soon.
Okay, so, we gonna put that on our next meeting? Or do we want to have a workshop and,
That's up to you guys.
We've been doing a lot of talking on this, so I don't know.
Yeah, it could be something as simple as Tony just refers our, you know, if we were to like come up with concurrence from us on each of these bullet points that we just talked about, then Tony could take that and hand it over to P&D and then come up with a picture, and then we just rubber stamp it at the next meeting, and it goes on to council as this is what we want to see for the North Harbor over the next 10 years,
Can,
20 years.
I guess.
can we do, remember we did that one meeting where we shared a screen with
Yeah.
them?
Yeah, we had a workshop, and
We had a workshop and shared the screen with them?
Yep,
Can,
I know what you're talking about.
Whether they're going to do that. They
could you request to set up something like that? And then
I
we
can
would
talk
have
to
a workshop that, if not, we're gonna have to,
We're talking another week down the road.
but it would be nice to get it done before we all go
I was just trying to see if there was an agenda out for the,
off.
yeah, and I guess, so obviously I've been pushing really, really, really hard to get a floating fuel dock where the U.S. Forest Service is. That's no secret. One thing that the city manager said and wanted to remind all of us at our last meeting was once a floating fuel dock goes in, it will never move. You know, she said that a couple times. And I see that as an ideal location because if and when we get the money to do this sheet pile project that we've been talking about, to get the parking, to get the storefronts, to get the sidewalk, whatever we want to do, and, you know, then we go and we rip out the old grid, it doesn't block that from being used as a offloading bulkhead or a wharfage space for processors, or, you know, we get our floating fuel dock and we also get to use that corner for future stuff. Instead of shoehorning a floating fuel dock into that corner and then it's only a floating fuel dock, we would get to utilize the space in more than one way. And I think that is a huge benefit.
You know, I never really looked at it. Can we get, like this, but can we get a landing craft between the Forest Service building and the old grid?
probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's pretty
It
tight.
would be way tight, yeah. Maybe able to get it in there, but it'd be tight.
When that grid goes away, though, if it got hit by a landing craft, I'd probably take it out.
Don't give them any
Lots of
ideas.
room.
Cost that landing craft a lot of money.
Yeah. But, so I guess I would like to see our, you know, our first bullet point is floating fuel dock. And then second bullet point as, you know, expanded parking and.
But we're not
space.
putting in a floating fuel dock.
No, but we need to,
Does somebody
we need to have it in
want to
our
put it
plan.
there?
Yeah. They put in a letter of interest for that lot.
Well,
But they can't negotiate with the city until council decides to stop the lease. So the way that the disposal process works, they really can't even submit a letter of interest until it becomes available. And right now it's not available because it's already leased to another entity. So they put in a letter of interest that was a little bit more vague, saying, hey, we want to put it in
pretty
this
vague.
general area.
yeah.
But it's, as far as a shovel-ready can start construction in a year, that is the only location in the harbor. And that's, I guess, where a lot of my frustration has come from over the last 2 months, because we've now, you know, at the last meeting, we recommended a 5-year renewal. So that puts that shovel-ready project 6 years away now. And it's been talked about for 6 years already,
We
so
had-
that's,
Yeah, I mean, we had a renewal, but we also had flexibility
yeah.
in that.
So
in that
hopefully-
lease.
Yeah, hopefully that it can be done sooner, but I see that as the only location that could be started on immediately to get the fleet a floating fuel dock. There's a party that wants to put one in, and it's ideal because you could put the tanks underneath the parking lot. Boom, we're gaining revenue right there. We're leasing those tanks out, or leasing that space for those tanks. And then they are going to pipe it under our pier like they do at the other one, that ferry dock. And then, you know, they put in their new float with their new pilings, and it, you know, could be a little longer, maybe a little wider. they put their own approach on. And so we're getting the lease for the mud flat underneath their dock. We're getting the lease for the pipe running out the dock. We could, you know, we're already charging them wharfage for the fuel as it gets pumped into the tanks. And then we're getting fuel tax back on it too, so sales tax. That goes to the city though, not to us. But as far as revenue to the harbor, I don't know if the city would give us the revenue from that tank lease or
The only thing we get is the fuel wharfage fee from down.
so we don't even get the existing Forest Service dollar.
That's gone now.
Not
We
even-
already spent it.
Yeah.
I found it, it was a penny laying on the dock yesterday.
Yeah, so anyways, that, it is a good point that that development would not, it wouldn't benefit the harbor as far as making money. It would benefit the users as having an additional option for getting fuel without going out.
I think that it would benefit the harbor because you'd have parties who are currently not coming to Cordova because of the fueling situation that would come to Cordova if they had a better fueling situation. I've heard that from, you know, a lot of pukers. They, you know, and sailboat operators that the fueling situation in Cordova is very difficult for vessels that have limited maneuverability to tie up to a piling with 50 boats in line in the current and in the wind. So that they would love to come check it out over here, but they just choose not to because of the fueling situation. I don't know how much, but that would benefit us because if we got 5 or 6 or 10 more boat visits in a year, that's transient, you know, a couple $100 a day or whatever. And it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but we could talk to the city about the lease. I think that any lease that's attached to a dock that the Harbor Commission or the Harbor Department, Harbor Enterprise Fund pays for, I think the lease dollars should come to the Harbor Enterprise Fund. That just is kind of makes sense. Same thing with the parking lot. But yeah, and it wouldn't block us from being able to do the sheet piling and the parking and the bulkhead and all that other stuff we would like to do down the road. But waiting for us to tear out that grid and tear out the building and then dredging, I mean, we're going to be $5 million into just getting the thing removed before we can put before we can even release it to a floating fuel dock.
I mean, look at, as you know, the numbers for this are 2013, so
Yeah,
they're not going down any.
no,
Yep.
I don't know. As far as, I just see that as the only location in the harbor that, our cost might be what, 100, 150 grand if we had to buy the improvements off the Forest Service to get them to move, and then immediately turn around and release it to somebody else.
What do you mean, when you say buy the improvements off of them? What do you mean?
Well, because there's been some talk about legal implications because they own the float and the ramp and the building, and it's on our, mud flat and it's on our dock, and what's going to happen?
At the end of the lease, the standard thing is if you want your stuff, you remove it yourself, and you're
Yeah.
free to take it with you. I don't think it's ever incumbent on the leaser to buy what you've created. It was your decision to build it there and stuff,
Yeah,
knowing
and,
it wasn't your problem.
It's got some years on it.
yeah, and that's
Probably about timed out.
I agree, but
Plus.
there's also been talk about trying to
It
be-
looks in pretty good shape. I think it must have been switched out.
there's been a lot of talk where we don't want to just give them the boot, and I don't want to just give them the boot. I agree the Forest Service has a place and is a very important part of our community, and I don't want to just give them the boot. I want to, help facilitate a move to where we can get something that benefits the whole fleet, and still takes care of their needs, and so I just see that. I've already said it a bunch, but I see our potential liability of, you know, if in the event we had to buy them out of their improvements, I don't see the improvements being worth more than a couple $100,000 versus if we have to yank out an entire dock and dredge in order to make room for a floating fuel dock, we're talking millions. So,
Well, we wouldn't pay for that.
yeah.
Is there, well, this-
Well, and then we could recoup the cost from Shoreside to make them tear it down.
is there room, you know how Trident has that, they're inside the harbor dock and the south plant? Is there room for a fuel dock right there, kind of from the city easement? It almost looks like there's water there. It's gonna be tight though. And it would be hard to get on both sides. It would just be like a one-sided deal.
Boy, that would piss off the reluctant.
That's not my goal.
Well, if you put something else, it'd be tough for those guys in those stalls to get in and out.
Yeah.
Right there.
If it made sense to put a fuel dock there, you couldn't just not do it because Great Bluffton's there. It's not there. They don't
Well,
have a harbor.
and if you were gonna do it, it looks like it would be sort of on the Trident end. Almost past the reluctant.
There was a picture of it in our last.
Not really, right there. There's some space there. I don't know. That makes a tight corner. I know it does that. Trident corner is pretty tight in there already.
It's tight there.
I don't think there would be room at low tide.
Our harbor skiff.
What's that?
At low tide, it's tight in our harbor skiff.
Okay. All right, I'm just trying to be,
You mean that one?
trying to, oh, here you go. Yeah, what's, this is the, this is a float?
Yeah, but
From-
I know I'm down there, we're getting ice all the time, and you get down to get ice, and then turn hard over off the tip of that dock, going towards the coast, going towards the fishing game dock there. You barely swing before, or you get, if there's a boat there, you gotta reverse.
Okay,
On
so,
that side where you're at there, I don't know, but there's a building right there.
What's that?
There's buildings right where you gotta have a room. Here is private property.
Right.
You're not gonna be able to put fuel tanks anywhere near that.
yeah, film
You
tanks.
know, I don't know where you'd find,
That's, when you get in there, that's,
I
that
mean,
shallows up really
well,
quick.
even right here, we come off this dock, and you try to turn out even with the bow picker, you don't have hardly any room to turn. And if you're going the other side, you got private property all the way down, except for that street.
And the fuel tanks could be in the sheet pile, Phil.
I don't know how, I see that everything above ground, I don't know if that's reason for that or not.
Yeah, or maybe they have to be a certain distance away, I don't know. Anyway,
Is there any reason we can't use the old Science Center dock for Shoreside?
there's another idea, have
Yeah, man.
something right there at the end and still be able to use both sides of the wharf.
Is that
I know of no reason we can't do,
Shoreside would be on the tab for, you know, the improvements they want to make for putting in the floating dock and any piling or anything. So it wouldn't come at the harbor expense.
right?
That's not a bad idea.
They can just run it from the same parking lot.
And we have, like, it seems like the Science Center, face of the Science Center dock is just inside the harbor, but with the breakwater extension, we actually have more lee. So that would be a protected spot.
Yeah, this is all fill now. so.
But, yeah, then you'd be attaching to a super old dock.
Well, but we could go to the good dock.
Yeah, rip the old dock out, just leave
the old dock
approach
out
and let them
and
take care of whatever else they want.
And that puts us out in this, you know, kind of in the entrance, but
Where you could have a floating dock down below with just the top of the ramp up on the existing
yeah,
approach.
it could go back towards,
At the beginning of the
G flow.
grid? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
At the,
sort of wherever that good dock, bad dock junction is. If they had a ramp that went out at a little bit of an angle, they could be kind of right in the mouth of the harbor without impeding traffic.
I feel like you can kind of see where the good dock, bad dock. I mean,
Yeah.
look at,
Yeah,
it's pretty
it does.
distinct on that one
It
photo.
looks it.
I can tell you, we stopped right as it starts to V out,
Yeah.
right there, we left that.
I think that V out part though is new, and I think,
Yeah, it is. This,
I mean, you can kind of see the boards. Like,
Yeah,
they changed directions.
yeah,
They
they changed.
they change directions. I think that is the delineation where,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, because that thing's pre-earthquake
Yeah.
on the outside
How-
face.
How many years?
So that little gazebo that's on the end,
That's right on the old dock.
that's on the old dock, but somewhere right behind that might be a spot where a gangway could go down and make a dock for, of course, they'll have to, people getting into the grid would have to slide around it, but there's some room there.
I think the only problem that we would see with that would be then you're getting the congestion right in the mouth of the harbor a little bit more. And I don't see, without substantial amounts of dredging, which, maybe the private entity would be willing to do, but I don't see where you could utilize both sides of the dock, like is
Do you see,
kind of their norm.
you see this? Like putting it like that way? Science, I mean, the Forest Service would have to do a little jog, but that's no problem. Could have it.
Yeah,
And so the harbor could still, traffic could still work, everything could, I mean, it's deep.
true. Yeah, if you had it go out due south, kind of
Yeah, or even,
southwest.
yeah. Or,
Almost straight down.
Southeast.
yeah, almost southeast, yeah. So it would kind of cut over,
Yeah.
but I mean, everybody drives around things to get to their slip. That would not obstruct, at least the size boats the Forest Service has, they're not looking at getting, 60, 70-foot boats. They got smaller boats on them.
40
so-
foot or under, yeah.
Yeah, I think the next one's like a 25 or something they were talking about, but, yeah, they could get in there. Anyways, that's they could get into theirs, and then there would be, it would just be clean that they would be putting in new facilities the way they wanted them, and we would be have an attachment.
Or for that matter, I was just thinking that if, like Kenny said, that it is closer to the mouth of the harbor and it would be slightly more congestion there, would it, could it also be feasible that, like basically the Forest Service dock is their own property, their ramp is their own property? Would it work out better to put the fuel dock where the Forest Service dock is, and then we could work out a deal with the Forest Service and they could just move their approach over and set it up there and slide their dock over a little bit, possibly?
It's possible,
They're building though, so they might want to move it.
possible.
Yeah.
They do
But at
have
the same
some
time,
value in that
it's
building.
at the same time, it's that the building's on our leased property and the lease is up, and they built the building there knowing it wasn't their property and it was a lease, and at some point in time that was inevitable that would happen.
Yeah, and they put a bunch of improvements into it after we already made a resolution that we wanted to move them. And then they use that as an excuse. Well, we just put $100,000 in that building.
I just
so we
feel
need to
like-
release it.
Like it's our job to do what's best for the town and the harbor and not worry about what the Forest Service has put into their building that's on our property and stuff.
What's that?
Yeah, well, you know that and I know that, but unfortunately, there's 4 people on council who will disagree.
Well, okay, so instead of, I'm wondering if we're going by bullet point, and that was the first one you brought up was,
Yeah.
and I think we can say room for the floating fuel dock,
Is-
or make it room available for a floating fuel dock if a company wants to put it in, and in this area.
Yeah, and see, I don't
US Forest Service,
know what Shoreside wants to do. I mean, the only thing I know is that they submitted a letter of interest for that area. I don't know what their plan is. I don't, we've heard from Mark a couple times at the meetings. I haven't talked to him outside of this, so as far as that plan goes. And I think he mentioned something about wanting all of it at one point
Yes.
at the meeting.
That's what I think I remember, was the whole corner.
I think he wanted to buy that whole grid mud flat area, and I think they were talking about maybe filling in and putting the tanks in back where that barge is, filling over the top of it, and then putting a floating fuel dock. And so maybe that's what they want to do. I mean, they were talking like a $5 million project when he came to the meetings. So he came to those ones in 2017 with Clay and P&D and stuff too. So
What I see with all that, though, if we put these feed pile in, and then that area, all I see is our harbor's a kind of we're stuck with it. And all we're doing now is filling in that harbor smaller and smaller and smaller, taking away the water or any chance of getting more water. Because you're never gonna take all that dirt out again and dredge it. So if we're filling it in, we're making it smaller. We're not getting bigger. I mean, it might help somebody else out, but it's not making more stalls.
Well, if we do bring the float system in a little bit, that could make
Yeah,
that, I mean, it's, that,
20
it's,
more out of it, 20 stalls maybe.
yeah. And then, okay, so,
But for small boats, it wouldn't be for 50 or 60 footers.
right, so I think that we can move past one and just
Okay.
say that we are in favor of making room for a floating fuel dock. If
In
somebody
area-
wants to develop one, we're not going to develop one or develop the space for them.
right.
But in area 1, 2, or whatever,
I think what Helen was looking for is area 1, we want to see a floating fuel dock. And, you know, she brought us this map, or had Tony bring us this map. I'm not sure how that went, but, so yeah, maybe we want to say in area 1, we would like to see there be space for a floating fuel dock. I would also say that in area 1, I would like to see space for a fleet wharfage bulkhead
In one, you said?
in area 1.
and you know, if we're doing the sheet pile and moving this thing up, the fuel dock could be, yeah, and it could be anywhere along there really, because it could have an office up on the top and, you know, drop it and just have a dock system that the guys go down and pump fuel from. Or,
Well, they got a dock on there, that little shed that keeps the look out.
yeah, that's a classic
But there
floating
wasn't
fuel
much
dock.
room on there, you have to put a couple 40 footers in there and you're done.
Yeah, it's, you know, that's really all we need. We don't need a huge one. You know, we don't need like the ones they have in Sitka. They've got 2 like 150-foot docks. It's like ridiculous. You mean, you go to Valdez, they've got 2 little short ones. They're like the
Yeah.
size of this room. And then you go to Whittier, there's one the size of this room. And that's what I envision as far as what Cordova needs, is one about the size of this room. And I feel like that, you know, obviously I've said it a million times.
Yeah, we're not
There's one
looking-
spot that I want to put it, but
So,
We're not looking to fuel giant tenders. I mean, like Mark said, he's not going
Yeah.
to turn people away if there's nothing going on.
yeah.
But we're not going to put a 100-foot boat over there at the closure of a gillnet.
probably won't have the monster hoses and stuff.
Right, you know, that's going to be bow pickers and wreck boaters for the most part.
Yeah, maybe a seiner here and there in the middle of
Right.
July when the gillnet fleet's across the sound.
Right.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did it in Whittier because we had to go there and get fuel, but we had to call in ahead of time and tell them to put 1,000 gallons, so they had to truck it from Anchorage. Truck it all in there.
So I see the, you know, as far as getting more services for our harbor users, putting it where the Forest Service is obviously going to be the quickest, easiest, and cheapest for everybody but the Forest Service. And, you know, down the road, yeah, it could totally go in that corner where the Science Center is. It's just going to cost more. And then,
But none of us are gonna pay for it anyway,
yeah.
none of the harbor.
And I don't want to see us lose any more wharfage space. If we can gain wharfage space, because that's, I feel like everybody in the fleet, it's a constant complaint. I know Tony probably hears about it more than he hears about anything else, is we need more cranes, we need more space, Cam 2's, you know, taking over the 3-stage and the loading dock, and we need to, you know, it's constant complaints. We need more wharfage space. So,
On that note, another bullet point, bring back E,
yep,
Dock E. or some version of
That's-
docky.
That's probably the.
Heavy-duty dock to tie up big boats.
Yeah, I would say the thing I hear the most about is we need a new South Harbor. Second thing is we need more wharfage space. Third thing is we need a spot to put big boats. Those are like the top 3 complaints I hear from everybody. So, and then 4 is probably North Harbor parking.
Okay, so that would be, so we've made 2 bullet points.
Yep.
More parking, that's the third. We would support city improvements for a walkway, but that's not necessarily the harbor's deal, but while the stuff there, they might want to jump in and.
Yeah, if the Trails Committee
the
wants to
walkway.
put in a boardwalk, I'm all for it.
Any other bullet points we want to get down
Would we
on
wanna
our
get
North
into-
Harbor?
Thinking about putting those, heat pile in or not?
Yes, I think that's the parking
Yeah.
comment that we want. We want to increase the parking and we don't really have any more land, so.
Might be a grant just especially for it.
Should it be included in that, what we're talking about of little extensions and moving the, I forget, what is the main float between A, B, C, and D there?
But
What's the float that connects A, B, C, and D on the front?
you just call it the head dock, but it's F.
F.
Should that include moving the head dock to create a couple more stalls there too, Andy?
Probably get 5 stalls
Yeah,
on each float.
might be, I mean, we can,
I see it as cost prohibitive for 5
it
stalls.
almost seems like by that time we get that done, it'll be
20
time to,
stalls.
I feel like by the time we have a
if we're
chance
putting a new harbor in
heck,
as well, but.
to get a sheet pile done, we're gonna be looking at replacing that float structure, and we should just utilize that. I agree with you, Max, that we need to push the head dock that way, but I think that needs to be done when we replace the floating stock, not, Frankenstein it together with a portion of new float.
By the
If we-
time this comes through, though, that's when probably about the same time.
That's what I'm
you don't
thinking,
replace the
yeah.
harbor. So it better go into the same plan.
Yeah.
Goes with that.
I kind of feel like same thing with EDOC, that just needs to be in our next redesign of
Yeah.
that float structure.
Yeah,
Just one note, if we move that dock, the head dock 40 feet, just like a quick calculation, it looked like we'd create like 14 or 15 new stalls
Wow.
for, 20 foot, width, it'd be more than plenty for gill netters
Out to
and
the
stuff.
end where the bigger
So that'd be what, 30 grand a year
Yeah.
on a project that if bonded is probably gonna cost 500 grand a year?
and if we put
We need a new dock. Yeah.
if we put E-Dock in and we build it Helfer Stout, we could attach to it later. Make it, it could be
How bad are those? I mean, I don't park on that side of the harbor. How bad is the North Harbor, Tony? Is it?
Well, I mean, I don't think they're that bad. I just don't see us getting that kind of life out of them.
You can just see, that's what the way that I look at it is that it's not like it's in bad shape at all in any way right now. It's showing the signs of wear that if you extrapolate, where it was 10 years ago, where it is
Right.
now, and where it's going to be 10 years from now, it's not going to last as long as the South Harbor did. It's just, it wasn't, built that well.
I mean-
so I just see like in 10 or 12 years, we really need to
But
be close to having
the
something
foam
happen
is,
there.
it's closed, encased in plastic foam. So like the problem we're having on G-Float where the foam is wearing out because the solvent and the oil and the water, we're not gonna have that issue with it, right?
Well,
It is slightly. The dock has settled into the water
Has it?
significantly from when it was.
The otters kind of helped with G-Float.
It gets-
Yeah.
Well,
It's sunk-
that's a problem. The otters are, because they harvest off the edges of the billets.
Uh-huh.
I've even seen where they're
They're tearing into
tearing
the
into that
plastic.
plastic.
Oh, and so then we're getting waterlogged foam?
Then you get, and then it waterlogged and critters get on it and then another otter takes a bite, but
The other thing that I was thinking about too is just the wood itself. It was treated a really long time ago. It's absorbing water. It's getting heavier and heavier over
Oh.
time and causing it to settle.
it doesn't seem to be as robust as the concrete docks.
Just like where, I think we talked about it last meeting, like where the approach right across from Cordova Outboard is, like if you happen to be walking down there, you can see where our ramp sits on the corner of that.
It's sinking.
I go down there, constantly for years and years, so I can kind of tell that over the years it's changed, but And especially the last 3 or 4 years, I feel like that corner that it sits on's gone down probably 2 inches or so.
Wow. Okay,
That's just,
that helps me. I know I've seen some, like, I drive by it and I see some of the fingers are like,
They're starting to, it's just the beginning.
and,
of that.
and then it's like, you have certain boats that rip off light poles after light poles, and then you've got, you know, I know.
Trouble, guys.
I know some of those issues, but I know when I pull up over there, I'm like, man, this is a nice dock. So, because I'm used to that. But I definitely, yeah, I agree that the wood's not going to last as long. It was put in 2005,
5, 6, yeah.
5 and 6, so it's 15 years old now, and it had a expected life expectancy.
I don't know on the life,
25,
what they
I
said.
25, or I thought it might have been 30, but it could have been 25.
Even still, I mean, 30's not far from there, where we're at right now.
So do you think that's accurate, or do you think we'll be able to get 40? I mean, we got 60 out of G Float so far.
Yeah, well, we've been, I don't know how, but we did.
A lot of Band-Aids on G-Float.
I guess
Yeah.
I'm still struggling with the idea that 10 years from now, we'll probably just be finishing this one.
maybe.
No? 5.
Okay, I hope you're right. I guess that's maybe just the
I don't know.
existential dread that I have over it, but,
I just know everything takes way longer than you think.
well, yeah, this building took, what, 10 years to build, so.
Do we have any more bullet points? And I think on the parking thing, we want to capture that we would like to, if we're going to do the fill, run it under the approaches.
Yeah, I think that should be,
Everybody seemed
yeah,
good with that.
sheet pile and fill. I think we should have sheet pile and fill as a bullet point, with parking as one of the benefits, maybe. Because there's you don't have to sheet pile and fill, and it could be where, you know, the sheet pile and fill gets us more, but I do know I've talked to Tony in the past, and he said the Corps will not give you any money for sheet pile because it's a failure point.
Well, they don't like to, and they're not gonna do anything for us in there anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not their breakwater, so they don't really care.
What is their breakwater under the road?
Well, not anymore. They gave it up because we went and ruined
road
it
on
by
it.
building a road on it. Yeah, we had them look at it, and they were like, yeah, we're not fixing it.
Okay, so there's no chance in getting a Corps anything.
I mean, I
We
think
can't
it's
ask
pretty
them.
unlikely,
We
but
can't
yeah.
ask them to move their breakwater over 400 feet or 300 feet.
We'll just fill in behind it.
We'll just fill them behind it.
If I'm reading this correctly, they show this conceptual at 95 feet.
Okay, 95 feet. Yeah, ask them to move their breakwater 95 feet for, you know, important reasons.
Do we have any other bullet points? Those are our three main,
Space for floating fuel dock, bulkhead, bring back E-float, and parking.
I mean, that'd be possible cranes on something, but I don't, that's something else.
Yeah, and additional wharfage space, I would say.
Yeah.
That can coincide with the sheet piling, but I definitely want to see more and not less wharfage space in our community.
I feel like that if we did do the sheet pile, that you could almost consider it more wharfage space down on the inside of A float down here.
yeah, I think that's a good one. Let's make
That would
that
be
a working zone.
a handy place for a smaller crane for just gill netters and smaller boats.
Real protected.
Yeah,
Yep.
way out of the way of everything else going on in the harbor too.
And then in this middle space might be a good spot for that net mending float you were talking about.
That's exactly what I was talking
Because
about.
that's, you know, in our South Harbor redesign, if we are fortunate enough to get the drive down dock that we, in my opinion, desperately need, it's going to eliminate all the net mending space available in the harbor. And so I like that idea of getting another piece of chunk of float made, put it in between the two ramps so you can
Especially
pull your
for
net
Saint,
across.
you're saying.
I mean, if we can't do seines, then at least get some gill net stuff.
But I mean, that's the I think of the airplane float. Gill netters often are repairing their gear on the dock itself, or on
Yeah.
main docks, but
And, you know, that's another thing we're going to be missing.
difficult with the same.
And I think I've spoken to it in the past. That's another thing that we're going to be missing is a spot for seaplanes to tie up in our harbor. I have no idea where we'd put them though. I think at one point I mentioned just when we move the current airplane float, we put it where the Forest Service is, but
Is that,
that was an idea I had a couple years ago, and I think you talked me out of it.
It's
so.
not worth re-anchoring it.
I mean, you don't even have anyone using it, so.
yeah, is there even,
But if we get our herring fishery back, you might.
Yeah, but when, back then, which I wasn't here, of course, from what I understand, and there's pictures of it, they all tied up in stalls. The
Okay.
majority, I mean, there's only 4 stalls.
They liked A-float and they like that protection over
Right.
there in the old
Okay.
harbor.
Is there space between the end of that new grid over here and the ramp? Put anything in there against the bank?
Where, Max?
road there
Oh,
now.
it's not on here.
Between the new grid and the ramp to put in a airplane spot?
Float in there somehow?
no,
I don't-
because at low water, there's, you know,
Yeah.
right off the end of the grid, there's dry land on a minus.
They might as well just have their little trailer and buggy and haul out.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
One thing that I've heard from some of my friends who are pilots in the herring fishery particularly, is that it's really difficult for them to get in and out of
They got that
the harbor if there's a bunch of boats.
Oh,
And
yeah.
So that was kind of why they didn't tie up to that airplane float, is because at the time you had a bunch of tenders and seiners,
Yeah.
transients that were rafted out,
It's clear.
and they couldn't get their planes past, so they didn't even get to use that float, and that's why they tied up in the stalls on A, I guess.
They kind of had to get by there to get, anyways.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but
It gets tight. And then, of course, as soon as the lake's open, the
Yeah.
lake's great.
They don't
Yep.
use the lake, to wash the airplane,
Nowhere to tie your plane in the lake anymore.
get salt water.
yeah, we don't even have anywhere to tie up in the lake either, but so
Any other bullet points we want to capture on the North Harbor?
I would say net mending area, net mending float somewhere.
Net mending float?
That could go well in that if we were to eliminate, you know, if the decision at the time would be to tear out the dock once we inspect it, you know, you could potentially fit a dedicated net mending float in that corner.
So is Sitka has the big alley you were talking about, or the double alley?
Yeah, theirs is kind of old, but it's cool.
Do you sign up for that, like using the grid? And
Yeah, you
pay a
call
fee?
you call the harbor master, and I think, yeah, they charge you $50 per day, I think is what it is. And then they're having flotation issues with that dock because you take the big seines, especially the herring seines that have like the 22-pound lead lines, and if you pile them all on one side, the whole dock sinks and was starting to crack and break. And so they made some rules, and they went down there with paint, and, you know, so it's not as good as it used to be because it got used and abused pretty hard. And but we don't have those big seines here like that. I think there's maybe 3 of us in town that have seines that big. And so what you have to do there is you spread it out into like 3 piles when you pile it, so it spreads the weight on the dock properly. And so they made some protocols, but it's nice because you pile it and then you pull around to the other side of the dock and you pull it down, and the dock's 80 feet long or something. And so you can get a full 60-foot stretch, and they have these posts that stick into the dock. They've got sockets, and, you know, you just pick them up and put them in. They're kind of in a pile on this, you know, they just keep them down on the dock, and people move them, but they stay down there. And you just pick them up, and they've got little, like a horseshoe on top, and you can take your cork line and just set it in the horseshoe, and it kind of holds it. And it's really a simple thing. It's literally like an aluminum pipe with a half pipe welded to the top of the one pipe.
I'll
It's,
be gone in an hour here.
yeah. Yeah, and so there's like 10 spaces that you put those in, and then you can pull your net over, and you hang up your cork line, and you do your stuff, and then you pull the cork line down, you hang up your lead line, and you do your stuff. And so they don't have like cables, or, you know, it's not that high tech, but it's pre-measured to a fathom, which makes it nice, and you can hang up a line and hang up a lead line. I know it's like down here, you got people that are trying to like tie off to the side of their boat, and then they're trying to like tie off to the piling to try to get their lead line stretched, and so they can hang, and it works. It works fine.
What would be wrong with having that on the drive-down dock on one side?
Just I
Valuable space.
Yeah, I mean.
Right, but you charge for it.
Yeah, so like right now in Valdez, they use their drive down dock as a net mending dock for seines. And it's a pain in the butt, but it works for that.
Yeah, well,
I see it as, yeah, it works. Like,
you
for
gotta
instance,
call and
this
make an
year,
appointment.
I went in to use the drive down dock, and there was a guy who had, piled a seine on one side, and he went around to the other side of the drive down dock, and he pulled it over. It works great. I just didn't see us, wanting to do it, but you could, if a bunch of gill nets get all over that thing, though, it's going to make it unworkable. So,
well, you're gonna be charged if you're there.
They might not want to pay the fee,
yeah.
you could go in front of your boat, maybe it's easier.
And I do think if,
Some of them just like that spot because they get better radio reception,
yeah,
Like, why do you die here?
if we do allow net mending on that drive down dock, which I'm not opposed to, I just didn't think we would want to, so maybe I'm wrong, but I definitely think we need to leave a portion of it off limits.
Well, I agree. I mean, you wouldn't want to take up the whole
Cars to come and
dock.
go.
Yeah.
Do the
Yeah.
work that the dock is supposed to. Roger, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
But you only need a strip, right?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, but then I've seen guys capitalize, like Rick Carrazza, he just takes up the whole dock in Valdez for like 3 days, and it's like, come on.
Well, I mean, that's the
need to
thing
get
is
a welding truck down here, like,
you said, you call in, you make an appointment for it, and you charged it's $100 a day, or whatever, I don't know.
Grid, just like the grid.
Yeah, and
You got a time,
if you're there longer, then it starts to get penalized.
but that's business.
so maybe it's something where we allow seines on that dock, and then if we can make the float that Mike was talking about, then the float in between the approaches on the new harbor, or whatever, the old harbor, the north harbor, that could be the gill net mending spot. Maybe that's an option.
Well, they do it everywhere anyways.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they'll do it anywhere they're not getting charged.
I do it right on April, you can't.
I mean,
From a guild.
we all know you walk up and down J and K,
Go to
A and
K.
B.
Them carts are worthless because you're not gonna be able to run it.
And, I think I brought it up 6 or 7 years ago, but we were talking about that lot next to you, next to your shop. And,
Oh, yeah.
about putting, a pad, like an asphalt pad there, and having that, people can spread out gill nets on it, and just flat pad. This is sign net mending area, and you could mend gill nets up there. It's a little less user-friendly than pulling up to a dock somewhere, but it would work.
Yeah, we've been definitely filling that up with the overflow parking
Yeah, so,
now that we're losing parking on the South Fill too.
Half it's leased.
What's that?
half of it's leased now, yeah.
About that.
Yeah, half of it's leased and then it is our parking. But someplace, dock or, yes, net mending, it would be nice to have a public.
Yeah, I just see,
Mending
this area between 2 and 3, in between the approaches, you put a nice dock in there between the sheet pile that we hope to get someday, and could be and that could be a spot for a gill net mending area, and then you could allow one seine at a time on the drive down portion. So,
Yeah, and then you charge for it.
yeah,
Both gill net and same.
probably start charging for cranes
And-
too.
Any other bullet points that we want to capture for our North Harbor needs?
Can you read off what the bullet points are so far?
Space for a floating fuel dock, bulkhead, bring back E-float, which is moorage, and then parking.
I wonder if, under the E-float bullet point, because this is going to council, which only has one fisherman on it currently, could you maybe like put larger vessel park?
Yeah, no, I will, I mean,
Put a description as to why.
And then we had some net mending,
right.
look for net mending float options
Yep.
as we develop it. I think that pretty much captures the things that we've been discussing.
I would also like to put another bullet point on there that I just,
Oh, the landing craft thing, that's very good, I think.
moratorium on small processors utilizing loading dock for fish deliveries.
I think I would like to take that off if you don't mind, off the North Harbor needs and then just have it separate as like a harbor business thing, and so it's not on the North Harbor necessarily.
Okay, I was just thinking of the loading dock is the one that gets used all the time, but I think we're already going in that direction, so I just don't know if that's something that needs to be kind of like made as an official policy.
Let's treat it separately.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with talking about it.
I'm fine with
but
that.
I just want to bring up the just quickly, we had discussed, and I had discussed anyways, the idea that someplace here we would try to find a spot to deal with our landing crafts. And we're getting more and more little landing crafts, which just want to load up four-wheelers and stuff. And when they're taking up the launch ramps, which we have, well, the landing crafts are busting up our launch ramps. So anyways, a dedicated gravel pad for landing crafts. It'd be good to get the big ones and little ones, but at least for the little ones, because it's pretty cheap for, and then they just have,
You could incorporate that with another boat ramp launch type area. I think that's something the public would really desire.
Yeah, I think that was in the Southfill plan to put it between K and the breakwater. I don't know if
that was a launch ramp.
it's in the Southfill development plan, but we kind of missed it in our P&D alternative 4. But
I would say it's probably one of the worst ideas.
okay.
And I'll tell you
Tony's
what,
never liked it down there.
well, you're going to lose parking.
Parking.
You're going to lose parking down there.
There's,
I mean, unless you fill that huge area out there. As of right now, if you put a ramp down there, you'd lose probably 20 spaces by the time you could turn a bow picker around and get it down there, and Max won't be able to get out of his space when you're trying to launch your boat behind him. I mean, there's no
real shallow down there.
You'd have to sheet pile that, which again, that's up against the Army Corps', so yeah, I think you just lose space down there.
Yeah.
You'd have to have down here is not enough space.
So I had an idea, and I mean, sue me if it's a bad one, but
Okay.
the current ramp, and so the downside of this idea is that it would just increase congestion. But so where there's a space between the 3-stage and that existing finger, is that an option to like put another cement way down there and move that piling to like go in the middle or on the end? Because we didn't want to put it on the end because of airplanes or whatever. But if they're not using our harbor anymore, we can maybe move those pilings and put some cement blocks, and then we have 2. I don't know.
I mean, I like 2 ramps there. I mean, granted, I understand the congestion is, but I mean,
I don't feel like it'd
It
be
might
that
be
bad,
better
though.
with two.
it may. So people aren't waiting to
moving
get down there,
quicker.
but yeah.
It would be nice to use both sides of the dock.
I also think that in the North Fill, if there was a little breakwater, you put another ramp down there, a landing craft ramp
The north,
Where-
feel like by
by ML.
Where would you be able to do that, though? I thought that,
We own a little sliver.
oh,
I mean, you'd have to really look at, but I mean, the thought is if you could put a ramp of some sort in there, or even a gravel ramp with a little breakwater so it doesn't wash away all the time. Then you have the ramp, the concrete one for boats, and the gravel one is your landing craft if you're gonna,
yeah, I could support that as long as we could ensure that it wouldn't be washed away by the north wind.
yeah, I'm just another idea. I don't know the specifics
Our
of it.
ramps are getting washed away. Yep.
But
A gravel one with,
Concrete.
as far as, if the fleet, if our users, obviously, the whole ramp, we want more ramp things, that we see that a lot too. I don't think that it would be that expensive to put another ramp on the other side of our existing float. I mean, we're talking some cement, some dirt work, excavator, low tide, let's get it done. You could even put just a dirt ramp there for the little landing crafts. It wouldn't even have to be cement.
what, you're talking north?
If you move the pilings.
Three-stage dock.
I mean, we've got
yeah, no,
3
I got
companies
you.
in town that have pile drivers now, Wilson's or 2 companies anyway. But so if we move the pilings and we get an excavator down there and we dig out some of that old stuff, that's not going to be big enough for the big guys, but it could work for like my dad and when we load our 4-wheelers and stuff. So that's an idea. That's just a couple truckloads of gravel and get it done. That's something we could do in-house.
Army
If we do it at night, yes.
DC permit.
Do it at low tide.
Dirt in the water.
So,
You do it.
any other North Harbor needs that we want captured?
Don't think we could stick any more in that area.
Did we put, sidewalks?
We said we'd support the city doing
Yeah.
sidewalks. I don't know if we caught it in there. I think that's part of the bulkhead fill discussion is
Provide the
parking
bulkhead
and,
They can build their sidewalk on.
yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we just put that on there,
Encourage sidewalks.
that we support and encourage sidewalks, but we don't want to be responsible for paying for them. I see the whole, boardwalk to the Skybridge area as cool, and it would benefit our users, but it would mostly benefit the community. So I could totally see your point of leaving that up to the Trails Committee and just saying, hey, we support.
Okay.
You don't have a school down there, so you can't use safety to schools anymore to build sidewalks.
Well, the kids in the harbor can get up to the school.
You had a bullet point for the uplands and the bulkhead wharfage for Area 4 by A-Float.
Yes, that was covered. Yep, that's covered under there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wonder if we should split it up like that, as like area 1, we want fuel dock and this, and area 2, we want net mending and bulkhead, and area 4.
I think
Bulkhead
that's what
and
she was.
I
service
think that's
area.
kind of what she wanted. She wanted us to break it down by area, right, Tony?
Well, one would be, that's behind the science center. So, I mean, that's easy for me to do, to put in a list. Like, you don't want a fuel dock in behind the science center.
Well, no, I guess I was thinking like area 1 was kind of that
On
whole
both
thing
sides of the dock?
from loading dock to the fill, and then area 2 was going to be from the loading dock to, I guess,
2, 3.
to 3, and then 2, 3 is in between the 2 approaches, and then 4 is going to to fish and game.
Yeah.
And 4, having a bulkheaded work area is actually, and that could happen. I mean, if we only had part of the money, that would be a bigger benefit than in between,
Yeah.
because we can get there right now without cutting a float apart.
What about no, that wouldn't work. Dumb idea. Okay. What about putting a ramp right here by fish and game?
To do what?
I don't know.
Oh, a
I know
ramp.
that we don't have 2 ramps that come down to the dock 50 feet apart from each
That's,
other.
yeah. A harbor ramp, or are you talking about a launching
Bring up the
ramp?
ramp at number 3 and move it over to the end of 8.
No, sorry, we're talking about putting a work area in there. What about a launch ramp?
Oh, launch ramp.
It's tough. The lineup would be tough there.
Yeah, I looked at across the street and I don't think it'd work.
And you'd knock out a few parking spots there too.
If you,
Yeah.
yeah,
Telephone pole right across the street, too.
that's kind of a
Get rid
steep,
of that. That's helpful.
steep upland right there. I don't know. Having staging area is the biggest problem for
Yeah.
launch ramps down there. I like something down there by the
What about a
Science
launch?
Center, because we do have that fill, and this road doesn't get utilized very much between, there's not a lot of traffic between Ocean Beauty and,
How tall is that sky bridge?
not tall enough to get
Oh,
antennas underneath
that. I
it.
was like, Sky, I wasn't looking at
Can't launch a bow picker down there?
that. Yeah, the loader goes under it, so I mean, it's gotta be 15, 20 feet.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean,
Not tall enough to not
You
have to
wouldn't want
drop
to launch
your.
bow pickers.
No.
And you would have to stop and back down all the way from
No.
that. You couldn't go in and make a turn.
And then when they break loose, they take out other bow pickers that are across from there, already moored up along with docks.
I was just thinking for a dirt ramp for the little landing crafts, maybe. For
It would make it awfully congested over there trying to get, yeah.
Okay.
There's just no room in
Is
the
it-
water.
I guess along the lines of those little landing crafts, I've used one before and, but I've never seen it as an issue. Like, we're always pretty quick, but is it an issue in the summer? Is there we're always doing it in the fall and winter and stuff, but we're out fishing. Is it an issue for other recreational users being in the way?
Oh, it's just one, you know, that everybody wants to launch at the same time. And so if it is, you know, if people can schedule around it, it's not as bad, but
When NVE comes in and they go and sit there for
they sit there for a while.
Yeah, it's the
hours and
big
there's
ones.
25 people sitting there watching, waiting to pull their boat out and can't, you know.
And you're talking their big ones?
Yeah, like, you know, they're just loading, you know, taking forklifts back and forth, hauling loads and loads, and it just takes them a really long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I've
But they're in
seen
one of the
that.
busiest places in the harbor.
But I see more and more.
I've seen like when Greg does it, and then I've seen NVE, and then I've seen when we get asphalt in town and Harris Sand and Gravel there for 3 days, and it's like, I mean, I've definitely seen the big ones. I just didn't think the little ones were in. But
Yeah, we're gonna get a lot more usage from the native landing crafts somewhere,
yeah,
wherever they decide to go.
It's almost like if we don't address it and create another place for them to go, I almost feel like at some point in time, we're gonna have to create a time limit for them. Like, you can have the ramp for an hour and a half, then you need to pull away. Anyone in the area that's waiting gets their chance to use it, then you can come back. But you can, you know, people, all these people that are paying stall rent and stuff to use the boat launch and stuff that can't.
Yeah, I have
Do it
no idea
because of
what they're gonna need.
For that size, won't the drive-down dock work? We go that route?
no, because the heavy equipment, like a drive down dock's gonna be rated for like passenger vehicles, but you're not gonna be able to drive a loader on it.
No, I'm thinking like for the 40-foot landing craft.
Oh yeah, for the smaller ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I use the airplane float for it right
Yeah,
now.
I mean, if anything,
The airplane float is
It works
pretty
great
good.
for
when I was in Juneau, we took a actual 100-passenger bus, 2 of them, and brought them down on their floating.
Whoa.
We drove down all the way, you know, you couldn't turn around down there with it because it's so long, and the other one came back and they only got partway on the dock and they were on the ramp. It was impressive
Wow.
that they were able to put 2 full passenger vans, I mean, buses, you know.
Full of people?
Yeah, I wouldn't say completely full, but
Yeah.
we had the Harbor Association, so it was 200 people, you know, a few didn't go, but yeah, we were probably half full on each one, at
200
least.
200 people, that's a lot of pounds.
Yeah, and then they're
40,000 pounds or something.
The weight of the truck.
and then I mean, you're talking big buses.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, depending.
I mean,
on
not that I'm saying I want to like encourage people to start bringing their loaders and offloading them there, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think you could get fairly good sized stuff, plus, like you're saying, the little landing crafts or boats, that's where you'd want them to load is over there, or try to.
I know in Bellingham, I've got fuel there, and if you want, you know, 3,000, 5,000 gallons of fuel, just have a truck meet you at the drive-down dock, and for some reason, it was advantageous over, they didn't want to fill up their little tanks and deal with you at the fuel dock. They just assumed, oh, we'll send a truck over, and it was a little cheaper to have a truck come than it was to go to the fuel dock.
That's, yeah, so that's how it is in Valdez too. You can go out to the, it's not the Kelsey dock, what is it? There's a Sawtooth or Sawmill, I don't know.
Yeah.
Dock outside the old harbor over there, and
Yeah.
they bring a truck, and it's like
I've
50
been
cents a
there.
gallon cheaper.
Yeah, that's where I get fuel in Valdez, is out there. So anyways, the drive-down float might help relieve some of the fuel issues if they can just
If we
Have a
allow
fuel truck.
fueling on it, but yeah.
go out there.
Make that decision, I guess, at the time, if we get one. What about, I guess when we're on the topic of some ramp stuff, has it ever been talked about, I know this isn't North Harbor, but extending our existing cement ramp so that it can be used at,
Low water?
at lower waters? Maybe not extending the dock, but extending the cement down into the water
The
further?
three-stage one, yeah,
Because like right now, it's, I mean,
about 2,
Foot holdup, I think.
yeah, it's about a 2-foot holdup. It kind of gets goofy.
yeah, you drop your trailer off the end.
Depends on if you're loading or
Motor float away
unloading.
with the trailer. You know.
You're unloading, you're okay.
You're good to about a 1 foot minus if you're unloading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you back up fast enough?
Yeah.
So I mean,
Your trailer
as far as, I don't know,
You go
we,
down onto the old ramp, you know, because that was what it seemed like the major problem to me was, is when they redid that, they put the cement up on top of the old ramp, but they didn't go all the way to the bottom of it. So you get to a certain point, you actually back down off the new stuff.
Drop.
And you've only got like 3 feet of the old ramp, and you go off of that and you're kind of screwed, but that always seemed like a big problem to me.
and I guess that would be more of a review of
Seems like a
Southfield
6-foot
project
drop-off.
ideas
Yeah, it is.
topic, but
It's a pretty good drop-off.
You'd have to
So-
re-bulkhead it.
Would you?
Yeah, there's a bulkhead there.
Yeah, it's deep at the end of that.
Yeah, I've looked at it before, yeah. It drops off like 6 feet or so.
It seems like that's the only time I get to use a crane down there is about a 3-foot minus.
If we're gonna do that, we should
Reach up for the
So-
water.
get rid of the pilings that are in the way for big boats. There's 2 pilings that are right between the launch ramp and the 3-stage dock. Only a problem at low tide or a deep draft boat, but they're down there and you can see them at minus tide.
They stick off the end of the 3-stage?
No, they stick,
About even with it.
yeah, about even with the 3-stage. But if you turn and you kick your rudder over, you could whack them.
I think
Prop strike
when
'em.
the Chilcat used to dock there as the ferry dock and stuff, I think the dock was a little bit further that way.
They're not doing any purpose.
Yeah, they're just
They
broke
need to
off
be
down there
cut off at the
at the mud.
mud.
I'll hand you a handsaw.
I have a hydraulic chainsaw. You can get them zipped off for
Your
you. but-
chainsaw, you can go down there and,
I'm thinking we're done with the North Harbor discussion, at least for now. And
Horse is dead.
yeah.
we'll go on to the review of the South Fill project ideas, page 7 and 8.
So I don't always agree with Ken, but I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel on this one.
Why don't we,
So that's,
do we need to reapprove what we already did on the South Harbor? Is that what she was saying, was Helen
well,
was
I
saying?
gave it some thought, and I may have to talk to her about it, but I don't see how we can do that.
Because you've already submitted all that.
Well, no, we didn't, this isn't our plan.
No,
This is the community's plan.
this was like as
Right,
big of a
all those
magnitude
meetings,
of
I remember,
comprehensive.
yeah, I remember.
Now, if it was
We
the
did a lot of
harbor,
work on
the
that.
harbor master plan, yeah, but this is a community plan that was brought and made by the community.
I feel like what we would need to do is just draft a resolution saying that the Harbor Commission in 2021 supports the findings and feels that the 2013 South Fill Development Plan still
Is relevant. or-
is relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I can be on that
Do
one.
we want to accept this community input plan?
But I would also like to,
Our plan is,
No,
though,
that's-
that's the number.
That's what we're talking
4.
about.
yeah.
This is what we did.
So, I
That's-
mean, we have to,
So this was more about,
Right?
this was like
This is
about
not the one
the
we
stuff
decided.
around the harbor.
That's what I'm
This
saying.
wasn't the floats. Like, we need to have our own float plan that we.
but also the uplands and, just how they, like one, this fill
We're
and,
just supporting.
Yeah.
it
That
all
was that
kind of ties
27.
together. Like, I
I
feel
know.
like
Yeah,
we need
just
to
do it.
make that plan.
No, we're just gonna-
Part of our,
as the Harbor
that is our
Association.
plan.
Right.
The harbor.
So,
And we know that, but I guess we haven't voted.
no, and that's what we need to make it so, she
Yeah.
and everybody else knows that.
Yep.
So, is that,
So I would, I mean, a lot of this, like we just talked about the bulkhead, that was identified back then, perfect. We talked about the need for another ramp. We've decided that's a bad location, but maybe we need to suggest, that we put a second ramp in at the 3-stage dock. I feel like that's gonna be our easiest and cheapest ramp to install somewhere. It's not gonna, I don't know if a big landing craft could fit in there, but maybe if you put the pilings, if you
It's
put,
over there ways.
if you put pilings right against the existing float, and then you took an excavator down there, got the permit or whatever, took an excavator in there, clawed out all that stuff, filled it in with some shot rock. Maybe we don't pave it. Maybe that's where the landing crafts go, if they'll fit. I don't know if they'll fit or not.
And it might be.
And
that
then-
skiffs could use it too. I mean, if you don't have,
Yeah.
you don't need concrete to launch a skiff.
No, you don't need concrete to launch a bow picker. I've launched them at Hartney Bay before.
And it might be a
it's
launch zone,
27?
might be a launch
Yeah.
zone and maybe a pull on the other
We used to
side.
launch a 27 mile when I was a kid. So,
I launched her all the time.
I see that as a really ideal location. It doesn't alleviate any of the congestion though, and that's the main downside. But
But there
as
is
far
some
as a-
space there.
as far as a more cost-effective, realistic, shovel-ready project, I think Helen even said she wanted shovel-ready project. Wasn't that like maybe a keyword she used? I don't even know. but she wanted things that she could push for grants. Maybe that might be something that we could kind of key her into and hopefully get her to push for. I don't know. It might take us going down there, measuring it, and talking to Greg and talking to Piswak and seeing if that would work. But if we put the pilings next to the existing dock, then we don't have to worry about them breaking that finger because the pilings could support them. You know what I'm saying? Like the pilings would be on the outside of the existing float, and we just have Peterson's make us some pile hoops, attach
Oh,
them.
I got you.
You know, it's right now we've got these big steel
Arms going.
arms to the piling. So we remove those pilings, remove those arms, put in new piling. We're talking like 3 pilings. I think
And they could lean against the
we
pilings.
could probably reuse
Dock
those
is on the other
pilings.
side.
They're good steel pilings.
Probably couldn't you?
Yeah, it wouldn't be long enough.
It wouldn't.
No. I mean, you have to drive them to be structural. They're going to have to go down 20 feet or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
For someone to lean up against it, so you're not, since it's all mostly mud down there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if those big ones would even fit in there, but it
Yeah.
could, if they could, that would be sweet.
I wrote down on my thing to take a measurement in there.
And we make that dirt. We don't have to worry about the north wind. Hopefully if they fit, then they could lean against the pilings. They could sit there all day long and all the fishermen still get to use the other side. And then we could make a moratorium to say, hey, all landing crafts, small, big, or medium, must use the dirt side. And then we can also say, hey, if you're a bow picker looking to haul out your boat, don't hang out on the left side of the dock for 3 or 4 hours, Because like some people will do that. Well, they'll tie their boat up there and then they'll walk around the harbor to go get their truck. And I mean, you can make policy changes and put up a sign or whatever, but that could be a spot to accomplish a landing craft ramp.
So, landing craft ramp, backup launch ramp kind of on, is a bullet point for the review of the South Phil project ideas. Something
Yeah.
that didn't come up in the original discussion
Yeah.
that we like.
And then,
We're taking out Tony's
and then,
launch ramp on that K-float.
yeah, and
ramp.
I think Tony can probably
Well, it never said that.
word that to Helen as to why we don't want that.
Yeah, well, that's why that little one's there, Max, I think that's why that little one is at the
It's
end
just a
right there.
different shade of yellow.
Yep, it's a little
Yep.
more orangey. Yeah,
I do,
yeah.
I like their idea of sheet piling,
Oh, I got you.
because that's what they were talking about. They were talking about sheet
Color
piling that
blue,
inside
all yellow, didn't they?
breakwater, and that's how they were gonna get their launch ramp. Man, sheet piling that much space, that's gonna be like $4 million to get that launch ramp, versus I think we could probably pull it off for like 300,000-400,000 on the other spot. Plus some staff time on
The
the
sheet
permit.
piling was also to increase parking. No.
Yeah, not in this plan, though. I mean,
Not on the breakwater over there.
Oh, on
Yeah.
breakwater itself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think sheet pile and the breakwater just corks us.
that was
Although,
that was just to they wanted to put the launch ramp there, and they thought,
Well, the other thing is that if the blue is done, if that's a fill,
yeah,
then the sheet pile on the inside of the harbor is a working space.
yes,
Yeah, or you
Yeah.
could do that.
Then it would be pretty sweet.
Yep.
Because you could just
and
lay up against it.
I like the idea, and I like this idea of the red and the blue, and the other dark blue and the green. That fill. I like all those ideas. I was told, I can't remember who. Was it at our last meeting somebody brought it up, or was it somebody stopped me on the street? They told me that the reason that it was determined to not do the Sawmill Avenue extension was because there's a main large sewer drain there. I think this was maybe we discussed it at our last.
Right.
I see. You
I think
They didn't
you-
want to put a
you
road
told me.
over that because there was the main sewer.
And so it was decided to
Trench
not
there.
do it. So,
But that
maybe,
could be a path or something.
yeah, you could put some dirt there where you're not having to walk through mud at low tide, I guess. I don't know.
But obviously they build roads over sewer drains mains
All the time.
So there must be a way to
I
do.
think it was something to do with the fact that it's in the mud, and then when you put the fill, it's not the road being on top of it, it's like the 20 feet of fill on top of it. That was the problem.
I remember that discussion.
But,
I don't think that affects us.
one,
no, but it's in this plan, so I'm just,
I know.
trying to say
I'm just
things
kind
we,
of looking
things
at
that we
that.
concur with. Or I really liked in 2017 when Clay pushed really hard for a few weeks there about trying to get a whole enchilada plan, and we came up with the whole sheet pile, the outside.
We had some Coast Guard boats that were
Yeah.
Should be out there.
possibly looking at space, so we
And-
came up with that.
Yeah, and so then we came up with, it was, I've got it on my phone. It was like 22 acres of uplands, dredging the harbor, getting 5 more, you know. I want that eventually.
That needs
Obviously,
to be part of our plan.
it needs to be. And so, I mean, it needs to be in our overarching, like, this is what we want to work towards 40 years down the road type plan. And I see this South Harbor plan as kind of, you know, 2 blocking us from that.
We would never do that if we just spent all this money to do like what this plan shows.
Right.
That would just never, ever
It,
happen.
like Tony was saying, it would cork us from being able to expand.
So-
Yeah, I mean, you could still build a basin over there.
Uh-huh.
It would be its own separate basin though.
Yeah,
Or fill area. I mean, yes, but if you expect to extend our basin we have now, yes, then sheet piling would be a waste, because you just, a lot of money to
Yeah.
do sheet pile and then pull it out.
Well,
So, or you cut only part of it and make a big hole in it, but
I feel like if we're gonna put a plan forward to Helen, I would like to see us incorporate what we just talked about with the north fill. I would like to see us incorporate alternative 4 PND that we all discussed whatever year it was, 3 or 4 years ago. And then I would like to see us incorporate the landing craft ramp. And I would like to see us incorporate the 2017 meetings that we had that increased the size of the basin and gave us more stalls. Because I think, as we've talked about, we're at 90 to 100% capacity, and we want more stalls. But that one was like totally cost prohibitive, and it was never going to happen kind of thing. But she told us that, like, not to think that way and to make sure we gave her everything that we wanted, and she would do her best to find it all for us.
so that plan was moving the whole breakwater out.
Yeah, I was moving the breakwater and then plus 22 acres, and then we got a bulkhead on the outside for like the crabbers to tie to.
Or it could be a place where a processor could build a new cannery or something.
Yeah,
Like,
and-
there's a lot of good
Yeah,
options
the
that
blue
could be good for
area
the town.
was
Mike,
pretty much harbor, and then the fill went from there, right?
Yeah. It was actually a little bigger, and I would like to see us put that forward.
I'm just trying to figure out where you guys come up with all this water that's supposedly out there.
Water.
There's
None out there.
there's a 20-foot channel.
No, there's not.
Where?
That is,
Yeah.
No, Tony, where are you talking about?
right off this breakwater here, all the way down.
No, there's not. I've been aground there in the skiff at low water.
Okay, so I have to service these,
These go
if you-
completely
these
dry.
pipes.
No,
I have
but
to
what
service
I'm-
these
No,
pipes.
it's deep.
It's not.
What I was referring to is if you look at the plan for the option number 4 from P&D that we looked at, that it brought everything, because we expanded the harbor basin, plus there was uplands on the outside of it. That brought everything out far enough to where it is on the side of the channel. Is that what you're meaning?
It's not. I looked at the charts too. There's no water out there for a big boat.
Well, on the option number 4, the part of the drawing was a dock with Coast Guard.
I know.
boats right there.
I know.
There's water there.
You have to go out about 200 feet from the existing breakwater to hit that 20-foot channel, and it's 20 foot at low tide. I've got the
Well, I'm just telling you that
bathymetry maps on my
Polar
boat.
Bear is over 100 feet long, and it used to be 300 feet off
Oh,
breakwater.
we agree, but if you,
Yeah.
if you take the main breakwater that goes out towards Spike Island or goes across from Spike Island, and you extend that line, there's a pretty good drop off there. And I mean, I do the service on the,
Yeah, we weren't.
You're kind of
on
talking
those
talking
oval
about-
pipes.
here, right? Where I'm kind of meaning is that if this was filled in with that number 4, out here would be where you can access the deeper water, close to where it would be possibly.
20 feet's not much.
Oh,
20
water.
feet works, most of the boats.
It didn't work
20
for the
feet.
Coast Guard at all.
No,
my
but
point.
those are really big boats, but I mean, but
Crabbers, they're sitting,
most of the tenders that come in here, 20 feet is enough.
The deep channels out there, not right here. You're right, this is all.
right,
But out here,
yeah, okay.
and you can tell that photo's taking up low water, so you have to like fill out through the channel.
Yeah, over in here might be deeper, but over in here is pretty shallow.
Yeah, no, so
Yeah.
there's a vein And so I
Yeah.
run my seine boat straight out that way
Right.
at high tide
Yeah.
to get to the flat, so I don't have to go around the
Yeah.
long way. And so I've got it kind of bathymetried out, and it's 20 feet at low
Yeah.
tide.
Yeah, I don't consider 20 feet a lot of water.
It's a lot of water.
If you're used to fishing on the flats, that's like the most water you'll ever
Yeah.
find anywhere.
But you're not getting a barge in there,
I
I mean, a
bet you-
tug in there, you're not getting, I
Well, in
mean,
front of the ocean dock, I bet it is.
you're not getting
No,
a
but-
short cutter.
But all those,
Dead low water, the ocean.
but
dock.
all those
20
boats that
feet.
are anchoring out here, those tenders, I don't know any of them that wouldn't go in there if it was 20 feet at low water.
Yeah.
They are all about 14 foot, 16 foot draft. And they're not really that. Yeah, anyways.
Every tide up, they go dry every time they tide out a can?
Yeah, a lot of them go dry.
That's why they're stuck there. They get there, they can't
the-
unload, and then they gotta wait for water.
Well, the one thing that I wanted to bring up that depending, I think that this is incorporated in the option number 4 from PND. But if we weren't going with that expansion and stuff, something that I feel like that we've needed in the harbor ever since we extended the breakwater into that big lot that, you know, this, where the jump is at and stuff over there these days, it stagnated the harbor greatly. It really affected the way that the water flows in and out with the tide coming up and down. And I think that we had talked about before, like some overlapping flat pile or even just putting in some culverts or something so that the water could actually circulate and wasn't trying to come in and out through just the one opening. It seemed like that could be a good benefit to the harbor.
Somebody else
So
something about that.
that was,
We've talked about it a few
Yeah,
times.
that
it
was
might help to the
discussed
settling.
in this 2013 plan. I mean, we only have like one page in front of us of it, but it's a 120-page document, and that was extensively discussed at that meeting. And there's a couple pages about that in that plan, and it's on the city website if you want to look it up. But what they basically determined was that it wasn't, there was a couple things keeping that from being feasible. I think the first one was that it just wouldn't flush because you got a lot of mud flat out there, and it really wouldn't work right unless you were to dredge like outside the breakwater. The second one was that there's an outfall line for 2 canneries out there. Well, at the time it was just Trident, but now there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
And so that would cause an issue because they run right alongside the breakwater. And so what they determined at that time would be putting it in the corner at the end of the breakwater trail was going to be the best location. But then they didn't think that would give it enough flushing. So,
Be big.
It just, yeah, it seems,
Yeah.
it might not be the most desirable option, but it would be so much better than the way things are right now. It would be a
Yeah.
big improvement for us to do.
For
that, I
sure.
feel like.
It's too bad there isn't a little spot there because that could be like a little back way in. And
We have one
Save a little
culvert.
bit.
Granted, it's only like a 2-foot culvert, you know.
It looks like it's plugged.
It flows though a little bit.
yeah.
where's the culvert?
Over on the,
Behind the side of Cave Float.
yeah, there's one over there.
Just for fun, they threw that in.
About this big.
Look at it. Look
That
at
goes
it.
from the harbor. Oh, it does. Oh, it goes. Okay, I thought it was coming from the streets.
There's another outlet from the streets too
Okay.
though, yeah,
Oh.
on the outside there, yeah.
You know what? Yeah, so
Something.
I guess if she wants us to concur with this plan, I mean, I like some of the stuff they have here. Like, it seems more realistic than the one I just showed Tony, but, I do kind of agree with him where he said that it's going to kind of cork us from being able to expand.
Yeah, I mean, unless you just build yourself a new basin,
Yeah,
I mean, which is not, I mean, is that a bad thing? I don't know.
oh, I kind
Either
of
way,
feel
moving
like-
a breakwater is not gonna be cheap.
No.
It's probably a
But
lot
you get-
cheaper to build a new one.
Would it be though? Because then you have to buy all that new granite and
Well, I'm saying you'd have to pick all this one up
move it.
and
Yeah.
then reset it into a spot that's even deeper, so you're still gonna have to buy, I don't know, I'm just saying that,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, I guess we could find out, maybe,
Yeah.
kinda.
Well, what I was kind of hoping is if we are going to move the breakwater, we can convince the Army Corps to do that part. And then, and you were saying the other day, a couple meetings ago, that they do that, but you have to prove that you can put the floats in.
That's the way I understood it coming from Valdez, is that
Yeah,
you're gonna have to, it's gonna have to like be a shovel-ready project, or you can show that you can afford to fill it with the appliances, you know,
Yeah.
so. But yeah,
But, I mean, as far as like, I think Helen wanted kind of like a plan from us for them to refer to in their council meetings and their grant applications. And I'm not sure if the 2013 Southfield Development Plan, while it is good and still has a lot of stuff that's accurate and shows the community's desires, I'm not sure if it's the right plan that she's looking for.
Well, the whole thing, the grant they already sent in has that plan in it.
Exactly.
So you
And
can't
she,
keep changing it.
no, she was saying that they needed something showing community concurrence or something, and so I'm not exactly sure.
We needed to update it.
what grant are we talking, we already sent in?
The build grant application has the plan we want.
Oh, okay, I thought someone said that, it sounded like you were saying we've already submitted all our grants for the year.
No, not yet, not this year.
Oh, okay, yeah,
You did that one though for the state, right?
not yet, not this year.
Oh, we did.
No, that's not due till May.
Oh, I thought we already turned it in, and we were
The
selected.
governor's gonna sign a bill,
That was last year.
but he's supposed to sign another bill this year in May too. So if you don't have it in, you're not gonna get a chance to get it for this year.
Yeah, well, last year you applied for
this
FY
year.
'22.
For 21, in 20, we applied for 21, in 22, in 21, you applied for 22. It's always a year beyond what you're actually applying.
The governor's gonna either sign the budget and give the money in there or not.
Well, no, the budget's not, the governor's not gonna, the people are gonna have to vote on it.
I don't understand. He has a budget, he puts it in there.
He's not in the budget. He didn't put it in the budget.
It's in the bond application that he's trying to put it forward in like, what, November? Becomes
Yeah, I don't remember.
Comes to
October, some, I don't
October.
remember.
Yeah, it's the,
So they didn't, this year they didn't fund the harbor budget at all.
well, it's a part of the bond package.
No, I mean,
So,
but that's part of, that's something they're supposed to fund every year. It's not a new deal.
yeah, no, they didn't. I don't think they've funded
They
it.
haven't voted on it yet, so.
Yeah.
Next year.
As far as like an overarching harbor plan, I wrote down some stuff that I would like to see us put on paper and maybe get some concurrence around this table. It's basically just stuff that I kind of felt like we've already talked about over the last 10 years. But, you know, I wanted to do, you know, maybe like a phased plan. And phase 0 would be rebuild the old grid approach, rebuild the loading dock approach, rebuild the 3-stage dock, add additional crane on city dock, completed or currently in progress using harbor reserves and the 2016 disaster fund. So that's like, we're already working on that. That's our phase 0. Phase 1 would be drive down dock, GHI, portion of L, floating fuel dock inside the harbor basin. And then this would, you know, be funded using the 2019 bond, approved bonds, state tier 1 funds, DOT, EDA funds, and, you know, ideally start that project within 3 years. And then the private investment would be for the floating fuel dock. That wouldn't be anything to do with us. We just lease them the land. Phase 2, JKL replacement, new transient dock, sheet pile and uplands work, expand Fisherman's Memorial Park, including harbor perimeter boardwalk and food truck stalls. And this would be utilized, you know, build grant funds, PIDP funds, maybe some U.S. Forest Service trail funds that would start either concurrently with phase 1 if we got the build grant, or it could be start, you know, immediately after. It depends on when we, you know, how we get the money and how it comes in. And then phase 3 would be the harbor basin expansion, move a portion of the breakwater revetment, sheet pile, exterior bulkhead for large vessel moorage, expand south fill uplands using dredge waste and cap, install new float structure inside expanded basin, additional launch ramp in expanded harbor basin. And this would be, you know, build grant funds, PIDP funds, Army Corps funds for the breakwater move. And that would kind of be like a 10-year goal, 10+ year goal. I didn't have anything in there for like the North Harbor side. So, you know, obviously we that's a priority to us and we want to add that in somehow. This was just kind of what I had jotted down. And that's all, I feel like that's all stuff that we've talked about over the years. And I just wanted to see it, you know, maybe we put together like a phased approach so that way when council is looking like, okay, we're going to move ahead with this, or when staff is like, okay, we're going to apply for these grants, they can see, okay, this is the order and the priority of which the Harbor Commission wishes these projects to occur. And, you know, I feel like that accomplishes what Helen was kind of
The whole
trying to get from us.
thing on that, when you start saying, we had the same trouble with the Pioneer, every time you get a meeting, you wanted to change something. You send this stuff for the grant committees, they look at that, and you sent something in 2 years ago, and you send something in now. They want to see the same damn thing. They don't want to see you changing your mind every year.
But it is the same thing. It's just breaking it. It's just like, yeah, I mean, it's the same project that we've been talking about.
But you're changing priorities.
Not really.
And the other one, the floating dock wasn't in there.
Well, that's the state one. And that's the problem is we came up with our plan and then the floating drive down dock didn't get included in the state application. But we included it with the build grant application.
That's what I mean, but, yeah.
And so if we got approved for the state one, and then the build grant one took 2 years, then we're gonna get started on a project, and we're gonna block ourselves from being able to do that drive down float. And so that's why, and so what Tony just said is they haven't applied yet, they're applying in May. So if we,
You applied last year for something, right? That should be looked at this year, right?
No, we still have to put it in.
You're saying you applied last year, it comes in 2020.
That one's
It comes
dead.
this year.
Already dead.
It didn't get funded.
Yeah.
You put it in the summer and you find out by fall. So we don't put it until May and we'll find out in October, November.
Unless they do this bond.
Well, then it has to go to the vote of the people.
But I mean, on this bond, it's gonna come up with the way we planned it. The bond passes.
No.
it'll be the way we apply in May. So if we're gonna change our approach, right now is the time.
But I mean, it won't take what you applied last time with.
The bond is just gonna be to fund the program.
Right.
I understand, but they usually wanna see plans before they hand you money.
Yeah,
Right, and they will in May when we apply.
yeah.
But
I'm just,
that's what I was trying to say, and are they gonna use what you apply in May, or are they gonna use what you applied last May?
This May.
Oh,
That you have to
we'll start
reapply every
fresh.
year.
Okay.
and I just, you know, I was looking at some of the history of what they've funded in the past, and Seward has adopted this phased model. You know, I think this year they have like phase 3 in there, and they're getting a tier 2, and it's included in that bond.
No, they might get it here.
They might, but you know, that's what I'm saying is,
Yeah, I know.
is they rank the projects, and you know, we've been number 1 for years because we're the last one with a tier 1 left to use, or one of the last 2. No, I thought there
They're
was.
like 15.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We did think that, you're right.
Oh.
We did. And then we really asked and they were like, no.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because you got to remember Juneau, Ketchikan, Sitka have like 5 harbors each.
Yeah.
So each one of those get a tier 1.
So wait, does North Harbor and South Harbor get one?
Nope, because they're in the same,
Basin?
yep, so we get
Oh.
1. Because Homer ended up in the same thing. They tried to do 2 because they got both 2 sides to their basin, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
We thought that.
But-
Ooh, that could be really good. Yeah.
So,
Didn't work, okay.
yeah, anyways, I guess the whole point of that phased approach that I would like to see us maybe put forward to, is the PND alternative 4 that was our plan years ago. I just wanted to break it into phases.
So we need to get that sorted out before we apply in May.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, because right now, the last couple of years, what has happened, from my understanding, is that the state application did not include the drive-down fuel dock. It did not include longer floats.
Just drive down.
It was like direct replacement. And that was like the 2016 plan that I saw the pamphlet, and I think we had a workshop with city council last spring. in 2020, right before COVID hit, and Sam showed us what they applied for, and it was like, wait, this isn't what we talked about.
It is what we talked about for the tier one.
Right, but
If you only get 10 million, you only can do so much. And it's like, do we give up doing anything?
yeah, but if you start and then we get a build grant 3 years from now, then
We
we,
don't know that.
Right, I mean,
But the state grant was only replacement in kind. Wasn't that part of a deal? Like they wouldn't improve?
no, they will, but you wouldn't have any money. I mean, you gotta come up with that.
We'd
extra-
use it all up
You
doing
know,
our
instead of
drive
getting
down.
3 docks done in a drive down or airplane, you'd get G float in something else. You know, if you get carried away is what I'm saying. You know,
So.
I'd
how
rather-
about we look at that on our next meeting as to like, what exactly are we applying for? And we can, review that. I understand your problem. We want to get the maximum because it's more of a sure thing and we don't know if we're going to get the build grant. But I do see some merit in Kenny's argument that if we prioritize things correctly, we might wait on a section because it, I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's worth discussing. Maybe we don't all feel that way, but it would be interesting to see how it all shook out.
Basically what happened, you're gonna have to stop and make a decision. We kick the can down, let's change it this way, and then next meeting we change it that way, and then the next meeting after that, all the way up to 5th of May, and then you're starting to say, okay, panic time.
I'm not trying to change anything though. I'm just
Well,
trying to write it down on paper.
Priorities you
So
want done.
I'm not though. We already all concurred on the P&D Alternative 4 plan.
Yeah,
That's what we want. And all I'm trying to do is break that plan up into a way where we can get started with the tier one without 2 blocking the build grant later.
well, that's what, it's all right, we get the dock and we get G float, and that's it.
Great.
So all these other floats, we're just gonna sit there and see how long they last.
You know, we have word back from EDA, we have we have other funding sources that sound like they're pretty big potentials that we could pair with our bond and our tier one. We have some savings from the fish tax that's come in higher that we really haven't even seen a full accounting of. There was somewhat of an accounting of it in the last city budget, but we haven't gotten a piece of paper back saying this is what your account balance is. At least I haven't seen it yet. And we've been socking 150, 50K, 250, we've been socking money into that ever since I got on this commission. And then now we have a couple $100,000 a year worth of taxes that we're socking in there too. And, we spent some of it for the approaches and we spent some, we've spent some for
Spent a million
repairs.
probably.
What's that?
Probably spent close to $1 million out of that.
I think 400,000,
That was for one ramp.
2
No.
ramps.
both sides,
Yeah,
both docks.
was
And we
400,
only spent about 270.
270
Yeah.
for both of them?
Because it was, the lumber we bought was out of our budget. our
Okay.
Budgeted money.
Okay,
So,
so we spent 270 out of that account.
yeah.
And then another 100 for the lumber out of our budget or something?
Yeah, roughly. I mean, there was a little overage, but yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And then we were, this year we budgeted, or we talked about budgeting for a harbor bathroom or a shipyard bathroom, but then we got CARES grant money for it. So we didn't actually end up spending that money out of our savings account. So, I mean, just in my mind, I feel like we have almost 2 million saved up, but I might be off on that,
1.7.
1.7. So between the 5 million bond, 5 million tier one, and the 1.7, we're at 11.7. And then if we can get 3 million from EDA, and then for what you said up to 7 million possibly, we don't know yet, but it's
Can't use that. We can use it to match the tier.
okay.
Yeah. But then, yeah.
So, and then there was also talk about DOT seemed excited about the drive down dock component for up to 3 million.
No,
Sam said something about it.
that's EDA.
Was that EDA?
Yep.
I thought she said something about a DOT project.
Well, it's DOT money.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's through EDA.
Through the EDA.
Okay.
Yeah, there is no extra on top of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but that, so if we're at 11.7 and then we got, $3 to $7 million, that would be enough to do the drive down dock, GHI, and a portion of L, which without the EDA money and without the drive down dock, we're only going to get GHI and a portion of L anyway. We're still leaving J and K alone. Like with the way it was submitted to the state, we still aren't doing J and K.
Yeah, I understand that.
So, and if she needs something from us saying, that this is our priority, we need that EDA money, so that way she can send it to EDA and get that money, then I guess that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. And it,
We're doing that either way.
right, but it sounded like she needed something from us with a plan that she could put in front of them.
You said it, basically, I understood, you said we can just vote on that 2013 thing and send it to her, and that's fine.
But the 2013 thing doesn't have the drive down dock that we're trying to get money out of EDA for.
But we have it in our plans.
So you can add it there.
We have it in our plans. That was
Yeah.
submitted to CAPSIS and being submitted, will be submitted to.
Yeah, but she needs something like 2021 Harbor Commission.
I mean,
That's what it sounded like.
I know,
but-
I'm not saying it
It didn't
didn't.
sound like she had wanted us to rewrite the whole thing. She just said she needed it upgraded.
Well-
Means let's vote on it, bring it up to date. And
So the big problem is this plan had nothing to do with floats. And so I went through and read it all. It has there's one section about cutting a float and that's it.
Like I said,
this
it's
isn't
not,
our plan I'm talking about. I'm talking about our whole business plan we have for the harbor, not this plan.
The master plan doesn't say anything about the specifics of
Right.
P&D Alternative 4 either. The P&D Alternative 4 is a picture that we discussed and there's nothing in writing to go along with it. We've never put our thoughts down in writing. And so I guess that's what I'm trying to accomplish is I want us to put it in writing, what we've already decided.
That's what I don't understand. I'm sure we thought we did something with that to make sure they got that G, H, and L and I. Somebody had to say rebuild them. I thought we went into that.
I think we took that photo and we concurred with it and gave it to staff and said, apply for
Yeah,
this.
that's what we wanted. Yeah.
And there wasn't a formal, it sounded like she wanted like a formal something from us with 2021 on it. So that way she could include it in all of her applications. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I wish,
Pretty sure that she also requested, we had to have the public's input on this. Either we concur with the public or that we consulted with the public and this is what they wanted. That has to be in there as well.
yeah, this is a public meeting and there's one community member that decided to
like
be
I said,
here.
this was a public program. There was not a, so yeah, I mean, that's up to you guys. You can do whatever you want. I mean, that's your choice, however you want to do it, but I mean, the way I looked at it, and I mean, would you really want to get rid of the tier one? You want to waste it and not, when you already have enough money to do G, H, and I and part of L?
Would it be good for us to ask, to get Helen to come in at our next meeting and maybe be more specific with what she wants? Because it seems like we're kind of just guessing what she wants right now.
Well,
I mean, I guess,
possibly, but.
I totally agree.
I was
We
thinking
need to
that
incorporate our number 4 thing, but it just seems like we're just getting stuck here.
I would like to get number 4 back out, and I think that, when we could do that on the next meeting, is have that out in front of us, but I am not opposed to changing our tier 1 to just, if that's all we'd get out of it, is a super skookum approach, drive down, and G float, so that we could have a place for big boats that could come in, and then we build off from that. Maybe we could even harvest some fingers for
We're gonna be pissed.
H and I or something like that, or H anyways, I don't know about I,
If
but
they see where they park their bow pickers and they see trees growing out of the dock and stuff, they're not gonna be happy. If all you get is G float, I can guarantee it.
no matter what, we're not getting the bow picker.
we're
clips.
we're not.
But I
not
mean,
going down there.
all these floats out there, every finger on it is rotted.
Right.
Well, that's not true, but.
It's,
They
there,
replaced 70 of them.
The boats, the big
We want
boats,
to replace them.
No, on J float.
that's what I mean. They've got this.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying,
I'm talking about,
I want to cut it here.
Oh, yeah.
I want to
yeah.
get this done.
You're not gonna get them done either.
We're not getting anywhere
just have
where we're going now.
And with it.
I know.
But H and I aren't, I don't think the priority, they're not as bad as G.
Start looking at electrical, they are.
Are they
H
as
is
bad
pretty
electrical?
bad.
Nothing meets code.
Yeah. No, I mean, ideally, I want to get the whole thing done in one shot, but that's going to take the build grant, and it just hasn't come through yet. All I'm saying is, with the Tier 1 application that was submitted before, it's not the P&D Alternative 4 that we all decided we wanted.
Because it can't be. You have to have defined what you want done. The tier is never going to cover that. You can't show them alternative 4 and be like, we want $10 million. They're going to be like, well, this is not a $10 million project. It doesn't make sense. It's got to be scaled to,
Right, which is why you take that project and you just say, okay, this is what the Harbor Commission and the public, because we had public at the meetings, this is what they decided they wanted. So we're going to do phase 1, phase 2, and it's just mainly phase 1 and phase 2 of that plan. And then phase 3 was going to be the expansion pie in the sky thing. It just breaks it into 2 sections so that way we can submit it to the state, say, okay, we're asking for phase 1 of, you know, we get the drive down dock, we get G, and hopefully we get enough money for H if we can pair it with an EDA. And then phase 2 is going to be the other 3. So we keep simultaneously, we keep applying for build grant for phase 1 and 2. And then if we get phase 1 done, or we get the money for it, then we can start applying for a tier 2 for phase 2. And we can get another 2 million from them, or up to 5 million.
now we got to match that again
can
and
get
take
that.
another bond.
Right.
We won't be able to do that.
Not talking about doing that. I'm talking about using, you can get, maybe we don't get the EDA money right away. We just get the drive down dock in G and H. And then we can get the EDA next year with a tier 2. And that EDA is our match for the $5 million tier 2.
Could be, yeah.
I can guarantee.
So there's all these different scenarios on how we can get this done. But I'm saying that if we submit it as a $25-30 million proposal, it's a lot harder for these entities to chew. And if we can split it into 2 different sections, get one done, get the next one done. And we can make it, this is our step-by-step priority. And so that way city council, who is only, 6 non-fishermen and 1 fisherman, they can have this. Who's the other fisherman on council? He's not a fisherman anymore.
He's sold.
He's sold out.
Yeah. But you're saying not do G, H, and I, or not do the whole G, H, and I a part of L in the drive down, and take the chance of never getting another grant for another 10 years.
But we do have a drive down, but all these other boats are gonna be sitting there with they don't use the dry dock.
So, but I mean, right now we're trying G, H, and I with no drive down dock.
No, we are trying for a drive down dock,
Well, I know, but through the EDA
and through the CAPSIS.
and through CAPSIS.
Yep.
So, but it was submitted without that. So is that, and I don't know the answer to this, but it's my concern is that if we ask for this state money and don't include the drive down, and then we do a change order, if we get this other grant, then are we going to get in trouble with them for not including it?
Which,
Because we're changing our plan after we already got accepted. So if we apply to the tier 1 and it doesn't include the drive down,
that's where EDA takes over and pays for the drive down.
yeah. What I'm saying is the state wouldn't have approved it when they approved our project because it wasn't included in what we submitted. And so then if all of a sudden we got another grant for it and we throw it in there, are they going to come back and say, well, hey, wait a minute, you didn't say that?
Well, 5 million of that, make sure would have to go to their part of the project.
Yeah. And as long as they're okay with that change order, I just wanted to see it submitted in a way where, everything's above board and, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying, and, your portion's going to be G and H, and then we've got these other grants and our match is going to be the drive down. And, I
think
mean,
it's in the tier anyways, but I'm gonna double check.
it wasn't last time, but I think Helen's putting it in because I talked to her a little bit about it already. And,
Putting it in.
so yeah, you're probably the one doing the thing anyway. But the other thing that I worry about with the way that the tier 1 was submitted in the past, and it might have been the 2019 proposal book that I read. It might not have been the 2021. I got it from that joint workshop that we had with, and Sam gave it to us, is that the floats were in kind. But what we applied to the state for was in-kind floats.
Yep.
And and then in our PND 4 plan, H was going to get changed to half 60, half 50 instead of all 50. And that's a big deal in our infrastructure need, is getting more 60-foot slips. And so that's why I want to take the PND alternative 4 that we all like concurred on. I want to push for that in a way, because we already applied for only a part of the harbor. And so I just want to make sure that part of the harbor that we're applying for is what that PND plan was. It's the same slip counts in the design instead of an in-kind.
Thing is, the state's going to look at, you're getting $10 million between you and us. That's the project they want to look at. They're not looking at the $50 million project that you're talking about.
Well, it's not 50 million, but,
Well,
and they are, because they're looking at all funds of sources of matching funds. So, I mean, I can see where, maybe you need to get approved from EDA or CAPSIS before you apply that way, maybe. But that's why you break it up into phases. So you just apply for phase 1 to the state, and then you go to the build grant, you say, hey, we're applying for phase 1 and 2. And then that way, if they come in, then you just fund it all. But the state is not going to look at it and say, oh, well, you're asking for 30 million, we're only giving you 5, we're going to deny you because you're not getting it all. You're asking for phase 1, which is like 10 to 14 million. And that's realistic because they're giving you 5, you bonded 5, you have almost 2 in savings. After this year, we'll have 2 in savings, and with 300 grand in fish tax.
what we're asking here
So-
is we want to trade a drive-down dock for 3 floats.
It's not 3 floats.
So I think what the confusion is, and it would be good to see the numbers broken up as far as estimates on what the drive-down dock is gonna cost, and then what G-float will be the same whether or not the drive-down dock is there. Its approach will be a little different. But then what do we trade by having that as part of our state program? Would we be able to get H? Well, but definitely not I. We might be able to get H. I don't know. I can't remember all
The numbers
what the
that I saw,
drive-down dock cost, but
it was $3 million for a drive-down dock. That included the approach, because it's all kind of together. If you didn't do a drive-down dock, you're going to have a $500,000 approach to replace. So it's really an additional 2.5. And, if you do the in-kind replacement we asked for, it would be redoing the approach across the street from the harbor master. And in PND alternative 4, we don't have that approach anymore.
right.
And
just
so-
2 over there.
Yeah. And so if we're not spending that $1 million on those 2 approaches, that gives us some more money for going towards that drive down float.
Can we break it down for the next meeting, Tony, as far as what we have right now, as far as estimates on what the different pieces cost?
Yep.
And everybody
But we're
can have
not-
time to mull over it?
Just wanted to say that we're not rebuilding those approaches.
That was part of the tier 1.
Yeah.
It wasn't?
No, you would put the landing in a different spot to make them ADA compliant, or you would cut back that approach some. You're not going to tear it out and put a whole new one.
Okay, well, the project I saw,
Yeah.
the project I saw said approaches, gangways, and trestles
Right.
all replaced.
Yeah, but it's not 100% of the trestle approach being replaced.
Okay.
It would be reworked to fit the new ADA compliant ramps and stuff. You may have, the one at G-Flow, you'd probably have to just redeck the hell out of it, but,
Yeah.
yep.
So, yeah, I'm not trying to like redo the plan at the last hour. I'm just trying to make it in a way where it can be accomplished and that we have a document that actually, so like we've all talked about it and we've referred it to staff to go apply for it. But council has nothing from us saying this is the plan and this is why and this is, you know, they just have a picture and an application that staff submitted a couple of times. And they've got two different plans that have been submitted from staff that are not cohesive.
They've passed resolutions, they've got,
So if we have what's been submitted in the past and what our estimates are for the different options, we can, on the next meeting, we could review this and make recommendations as far as priorities and if we want to change anything as we're moving forward into the May deadline for.
Yeah. I looked at it and I can bring it to the next meeting, but the G, H, and the drive down dock all together was, so we'd be giving up I and we'd be getting the drive down dock, basically.
we can do G, H, and I and the drive down dock if we do in kind. The 10, or a little over 10,
And the drive down dock.
yes.
Is that what we want to do?
Well, that'll do nothing.
Would we be able to get all 5 if we didn't do the drive down dock?
No.
No.
There's a lot more, believe it or not, there's a lot more square footage on K and J. Because of all
the
the
fingers.
fingers, there's so many fingers. Yep,
I remember them costing more than H.
yeah.
Like K float costs more than H float. When I looked at
Yeah, I
that.
think you're probably, or at least pretty close. Yeah, when you consider the size of the boats that are on it.
And it was like,
So many finger floats,
and more pilings.
yeah, so. Well, no, I wouldn't say those.
There's 130.
There's more on what?
that boat.
There's more on
yeah.
H than there is,
Yeah, they don't have them
Because they
at
have
the
them-
end. That's
they have them on the
right.
end on H and, yeah,
And is there any reason G can't be longer?
well, anything. It'd be awfully tight over there
Where?
between D.
Well, I mean, it's kind of at the pinch point right now.
I don't think.
I guess it kind of, now it makes it tough to.
Yeah, it
make
makes that pinch
curve.
point even longer of a pinch
Boats
point,
back out, back right in.
yeah.
But adding those fingers at the end of H would, those are, and making them big slips on both sides would certainly.
I just want to see us pursue that. You know, we had meetings. I just love that P and D alternative 4 plan. Like, and I just want to see that for our community.
Well, I do too, but I mean, my point is that you don't give up. I mean, do we want to take the chance of just going that route and not getting a grant? Because tier 1 probably, well, we're not going to get it. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but it's not going to get voted on until October by the people.
Yeah.
And then it's got to be decided who's going to get it. So, I mean, yeah, we might. But if that's the only one we get, then we got to go in and pick up 5 million. If we get the EDA, we can match it with the 5 million or not. And if we got the build, which is still pretty unlikely, but I think we'll have a much better shot. It's possible,
Yeah.
but,
Well, the build can be up to 25 million.
oh yeah, can be, yeah.
So then if we get the 5 million from our bonds, the 5 million from the state, and the up to whatever millions from the EDA, and we match, and we get 25 million from the feds, I mean, we're talking a $45 million project. Or, 40 million. And that gets us some of this fill and some other stuff that, and, the uplands and the sheep pile and the,
But then that does leave us the other side of the harbor to never do anything for 25 years or so.
Well, no, it could get us the sheep pile over there if we had 40 million, because the P and D alternative 4, the price estimate that P and D came up with was 25 million.
Yeah, and it can't have that side of the harbor fit into it
Why not?
because they will not approve it as the way it was written by P&D. They want to see one area.
Huh.
All
South
improvements
Harbor.
done
But-
in one.
They don't want to see a piece over there, and a piece over there, and that's, we talked with that with P&D on that.
But we could use our $5 million bond over there.
Okay, but what about the docks?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Do we want to do a loan for the next 20, 30 years and not be able to take another one? I'm not saying don't do it if we get the money. These are ideas that if we bond out, we can't take another bond unless we come up with extra money somewhere for the next 20 years, because we can't afford it.
Yeah.
So I'm just,
So you're saying if we get the EDA, then maybe we don't use the bond and we
Yeah.
save that?
that'll
Save
save
ourselves.
our tier,
That or we save
or
it?
you get the tier and match it with that and don't do the bonds. I mean, something, yeah, we're gonna have to come up
Well,
with.
we can use the EDA with the tier 1.
Right.
And then we don't have to fork up the 5 million.
But we don't have either of them.
But if we got, right, but if we got both of them,
Stop being such a realist, Max. Jeez.
well, if we got both of them and the 5 million, we could get the whole thing done with the drive down dock. Or we could get three.
Well, I think it's important to, even if we can't afford them all, just to get our priorities, and it would be nice to look at priorities when we all have a fresh chance to review the costs and think about it. And this has been good discussion to make us all think about it and start chewing on it. And when that stuff comes through, I think we can give some real good feedback on the Southville. Because, yeah, there's been a lot of plans and a lot of changes, and I do remember that alternative 4 being, seeming like it would work really well. We'd be,
Well, that
make a
was
big improvement.
when we were thinking we could go for that bill grant for like 50 million, though, we were talking about.
Yeah.
So,
No, the bill grant was not, it wasn't 50 million. It was 25 million. And the 25 million would give us everything. We wouldn't even need the state. And
Well, but for that other one, we were talking about, it was 50-some million or 60 million.
that was for the expansion pie in the sky. Yeah, that was
we
like
did the-
68 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
that,
if we got the build grant, we could do everything. Well,
not the
the
expansion.
whole
Yeah.
South Harbor.
fix what we have.
Yeah. Well,
make it
and
better.
improve it.
And improve it, yes, but not build a new harbor.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Okay, so I don't see anything under old business, and Ken, you brought up the moratorium. I think that should be a dedicated agenda item next time, so
Okay.
if people want to come and talk about that, they have that opportunity. I don't think we should deal with it tonight.
Yeah, and I don't want to implement that until we get our new cranes that we already like voted on and for use, and the council approved it, and it's in the works, and it might not happen. It's not going to happen before the season though.
Unfortunately, no.
But it's something, you know, maybe for 2022 that we, you know, no more processors
Okay.
using our fleet infrastructure. Because they'll be using the city.
I think it would be a good discussion. I'm not sure what
Yeah. but-
legalities or what things are available, but I think,
Well, it's up, I mean, we're leasing it to Cam too. We just quit leasing it to her and say, you're moving out there. Right, and,
I think it'd be a good discussion.
yeah,
And it would be good to get some feedback from staff on,
why?
Because that's all we ever say. No one ever complains about the other one that's out on the city dock.
Because that's where they should be.
no one complains, I didn't catch all that.
I was just saying that we always, when the complaint is, it's always Cam 2. But when the other little processor was inside the harbor, no one ever complained about it when I got here.
No, yeah, well, and that's why we almost need to define what a processor is and how big of an operation, because the small guys
Yeah,
that take
tote or two
deliveries
is
from
one
2 or
thing.
3 boats and they're there for an hour and a half don't really disrupt the harbor, but Cam 2 makes it hard to get anything
Sets
done
up
in the
camp,
harbor.
she's there all.
So do the other guys on the city dock.
Right, but that's, I guess that's, in my mind, that's where I want to see all of
That's outside the
all
harbor.
processors
I do
go.
too. You know what I'm trying to say here is that you keep throwing it at,
You want us to quit singling out the name of the processor?
I don't think you should be singling out anyone. I think it's bad.
Well, the whole deal is you're gonna say no processors at all, and they'll find their own dock, or build one.
I just don't, I just, so I don't want to, yeah, I want just the loading dock and the 3-stage dock to be off limits to processor leases once we have built infrastructure to support them elsewhere. That's all I want. And we've already, it's in the works. The crane's getting ordered. We already got the money approved by council. It's gonna happen before 22.
Okay.
So,
All right, so we could put that on future agenda items, and I think we can discuss it and, but we have audience participation. He's patiently been waiting.
For hours, yeah.
So as a South Harbor tenant, I would prefer to see floats and slips replaced. I think the drive down dock's a good idea, but I would prefer to see that. And I'm on K-float, so I'm gonna be last in line for that. But I do know that fishermen are gonna wanna see that too. So we implemented the raw fish tax, the wharfage, and that final year of stall rate increase to go towards harbor renovations. Now, there's no sunsetting that. That's going to be from here until future councils get rid of it, which would be stupid in my opinion, because the harbor's the most expensive thing this town's got, besides this building. But anyways, what I'm saying is you have that money to count on. And so when Tony's saying we can't apply for something for 25 more years, there's $12.5 million that you will have in the bank in that 25 years. As long as fishing's still going.
No, we kind of used that up with our,
Right, but no, we can turn that into whatever we want. We made it specifically for that because that was available at the time. But that doesn't mean we can't keep collecting it and doing the wharfage.
no, if you don't take out the bond, that money's gonna keep going to the bank.
If,
It's going in the bank right now.
if we take out a bond, that's to pay the bond.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
But then when the bond is paid, we are still going to be collecting it
20 years.
for however long. I'm just saying that you have access to that until council makes it go away. It's not like I don't know how we have to fix it to keep it that way, but I'm sure we can it's a good way to save money specifically for the boat harbor. The boat harbor's always gonna need it. There are some other things I wanted to say, but Kenny, you said so much. Kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, giving council a digestible amount of information is key. Don't inundate us with, I think your bullet points is probably good enough for next week's meeting. That's good enough for us to have a long discussion on. And I can't speak for Helen, but for myself, that PISWAC Science Center building was the big issue that needed to have, and the fuel dock, for us to chew on. And so we own the Salty Steer lot. I would like to see that pile go right down the front of that lot, and they can put their dock off of that and be separated from anything. So when you tear off the Science Center building and that whole thing, nothing happens to them. They don't have to move nothing, they don't have to do anything, if it's possible. So that's one thing I was thinking about when you guys were, that's all I got.
oh, that's a good spot for that.
The problem is it'll get referred by the Science Center crowd, but yeah.
Anybody on the phone want to make a comment?
No,
Just Jake.
no one's on there.
Okay. Okay, so we have a future agenda item that we already put down, and we're going to be bringing back the Southville as well as the discussion of the moratorium. Anybody else have anything for future agenda items? Thanks, Dave.
Landing or, yeah, have Tony bring back more information on that landing craft.
Oh, yeah.
That he can go, you know, have somebody go take a measurement and just tell us how wide that is and if it's even feasible or not.
That's down here by the 3-stage.
Yeah.
No. Oh,
Yeah, the one between the 3-stage and the
Oh, yeah.
existing float.
and the other,
And the
and
maybe-
that other one, just in case we want to do something with that beach. I would like to
the
know
proper-
how much
It's already a park.
land we have to access.
Yeah, from Leif, follow up with Leif on that.
Sunshine.
Shell Beach.
On Shell.
Shell Beach,
Shell
there we
Beach or
go.
Sunshine Park or whatever they call the thing.
Bird Poop Park?
Monaco Comprons.
What's that?
Okay, commission comments. Max, you want to go ahead?
I think we talked so much stuff, I don't know really what to talk. Well, I'd like to, get, like you're saying, get more information on the projects we're talking about, so that we know, everybody knows what, talking about the same thing. And what the people, what they sent in and what they didn't send in. What the costs are. I'd want to like to know what we're gonna, we do this, what's gonna happen here, you know, so we're basically shuffling jobs around that what we can do with stuff. That's about it, just like to have a better idea. We need everything we're talking about, this is how we're gonna get it there,
Yeah.
so that's it.
Mike?
Yeah, it'll be good to see some updated numbers and a little bit more info on that stuff. And I'm just super excited to talk about getting some more parking at the North Harbor.
Yeah, Ken?
Yeah, I'm glad to be bringing it back next meeting. I'll come better prepared with the actual packets that I have in my office and the photos and everything from the P&D.
think I
You know, they got the big blown up pictures like this, but with the P&D on it. And
I think I threw mine away.
yeah, I keep everything, so I'm like a pack rat. So I'll bring that, and then I guess, yeah, the other comment would be that I think we're on a good direction with the North Harbor stuff. I think coming up with that landing craft potential, that's kind of cool. Hopefully it measures out. And if it doesn't work for the big ones, maybe we can still evaluate it for just getting another bow picker launch ramp in there.
Yeah, I think there's 20 feet there, but.
So, yeah, as far as the, you know, what I was talking about, and we're bringing it back, the whole phased plan, another benefit to that I hadn't thought of before is just right now, if we rip out that whole float structure and where are we going to put all those boats, if we can separate it into, you know, doing one section first, then starting out on the next section immediately after, then we have somewhere to put boats. So that might be one of the pros to that. And I just want to say that before I forgot it. So, thanks.
Okay, Jake, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. You got me?
I got you.
All right, yeah, I just wanted to say, sounds like a lot of good plans going down. Everyone's got great ideas. But we really need to keep in mind that we need to do what's best for the people that we represent, you know, the fishermen and the users of the harbor. And we have an opportunity to fix the major broken problem. We need to be taking care of that. You know, they may not be showing up to our meetings, but if we go ahead and put in a really skookum drive down dock or sheet pile or whatever else around, if we don't fix their floating docks, they're going to be upset, and we will hear about it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Good point, yep. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to the more information, and I do worry about having an improvement that's in our way, and I would like to look at that a little bit more in regards to that drive down dock and G float, but I definitely understand, and it is a good balance there to figure out. Part of it's the game with the grants and stuff, so it'd be good to review that. And that's all I have. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Any opposed? Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Brandy. Thanks,